Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Sunday, November 9th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $ORIONNWSF or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Sunday night football. Going to start here in roughly 5 to 6 minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get settled in for some Sunday night football. Happy Sunday, everyone. And on the thumb, on the left, one of the best defenders in the game, T.J. Watt. And on the right, one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the game from the University of the Oregon Ducks, Justin Herbert. Valdo in the building, what's good? Daniel in the building, what's good? Sarah in the building, what's good? Congratulations on your big victory. Obviously watching the Buccaneers and the Patriots, every snap. And, to be able to, go over some of those question marks, for teams like the Colts and the Patriots, are they for real? Are they good enough, to beat up some of the top dogs in the NFL? And the answer is yes, and again, they ended up having, some injuries on the offensive side of the ball, especially with their, running back core, but enough, with the people that were available to get the job done. And, there was a moment where the rain came down and Drake May, had a few off throws, but to be able to see it in front of my very eyes, and I've been watching your Colts from afar as well, obviously having a great running game will take that pressure off. Daniel Jones, same thing for Drake May. If you end up having a fantastic running game, no matter who it may be behind, obviously, the quarterback during the matchup, it definitely will help you. Trayvon Henderson had a huge game, just like JT did for you. And, me being a defensive fan, it definitely made me a little sick to my stomach seeing the Buck defense give up so many big plays through the air from Drake May and obviously on the ground. But, the Patriots are the real deal this year. They finally have an identity, post Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. And again, tough loss, but again, I knew it was going to be a battle and a war. And, again, just the offensive line and the defensive line just couldn't do enough. And really, that was really what it came down to, the battle in the trenches. My respect for the Patriots and Drake May have definitely gone up a couple levels. We still feel that we're, a very contending team, but that definitely was a game where we could have used Bucky Irving. We could have used Mike Evans. We could have used Chris Godwin, and especially on the defensive side with Jamel Dean. But again, got to give the Pats kudos. And let's go over some of the scores before we get into kickoff here between the Steelers and the Chargers. So the Colts won in overtime there in Berlin, 31-25. And again, Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in the game in 2025 after Saquon held that role last year. 32 carries, 244 yards, 3 tutties. I mean, if you're going to get that kind of production, from your running back, again, chances are you're probably going to win the game, and it doesn't really mean that you have to go for 3 or 4 touchdowns in the air. You probably only need 1 or 2. Daniel Jones got the job done, 31-25 in OT. Big win for the Colts for them to improve to 8-2. Bears 24, Giants 20. Giants were ahead at an early point in the game there with Jackson Dart, but the Bears obviously got the job done late, 24-20, and that gets the Bears to improve to a surprising 6-3. Dolphins 30, Bills 13. I don't think anyone anticipated Josh Allen and this Bills defense to play this bad. But again, when you play a divisional opponent, anything can happen on any given Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Big 30-13 victory there for the Dolphins. Probably the biggest surprise of the weekend. Ravens 27, Vikings 19. JJ McCarthy did everything that he could, but just a little bit too much Lamar. And that was the final, 27-19 Ravens. And they improved to 4-5, one more victory, and they'll be at 500, nipping at Pittsburgh's heels. Jets 27, Browns 20 in the battle of the Bads. Jets improved to 2-7. The Browns dropped to 2-7, and the Browns are now also 0-5 on the road. Pats 28, Buccaneers 23. Had a garbage touchdown there a little late. And again, the offensive line couldn't hold the blitz on a key third down late, and that was pretty much the end of it. And give kudos to Travion Henderson there, 14 carries, 147 yards, and 2 tutties on the ground. That was really the difference in the game. We stopped Henderson, we win. We weren't able to do that. Congratulations to the Patriots. They're 8-2, 5-0 on the road. And if the Patriots match up, to the Colts or the Bills or the Chiefs or anybody in the AFC, I best believe if you have watched them play this year, they can definitely compete with anybody in the AFC in 2025. Congrats to them. Buccaneers fall to 6-3, but again, I still feel that we're going to win the NFC South. We just need to get our players healthy. Shout out to Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving. Hopefully they will be on the field sooner than later. Saints 17, Panthers 7. Saints improved to 2-8. Panthers dropped to 5-5, and that was a game where the Panthers should have won. A disappointing loss for the Carolina fan base. Texans 36, Jaguars 29, and again with no CJ Stroud, Davis Mills 27 for 45, 292 yards and 2 tutties. That got the job done. Seahawks 44, Cardinals 22. They doubled them up. Great job by the Hawks. Now they improved to 7-2. Rams 42, Niners 26, doubling up the Niners there. The Rams improved to 7-2 and look like a top dog in the NFC with the Seattle Seahawks. And the Lions in the late game, doubling up the Commanders 44-22. I'm not really sure what was going on in the Seahawks, Cardinal, Rams, Niners, Lions, Commanders, but they all had similar scores, doubling up their opponent. Lions 44, Commanders 22. Jared Goff 25 for 33, 320 yards, 3 TDs, and the Jared Goffense for the Lions. Great job there. And then obviously we saw the Broncos win an ugly game on Thursday night, 10-7 over the Raiders. And then we're going to have Eagles and Packers on Monday night. And definitely looking forward to seeing how that kind of plays out. Again, a big victory for Green Bay if they were able to get it, to be able to show, hey, we can hang with arguably the best team in the NFC in the Philadelphia Eagles, even though we've definitely seen there has been some competition at the top in the NFC, especially in the top 5 in the last few weeks. And again, definitely looking forward to seeing what Philly is going to do, obviously tomorrow as well. And, they have that kind of Super Bowl standard. If they don't win, the season is a failure. Pretty good matchup. And if Green Bay can play up to the competition, that could be a little bit closer than people think. What's good, brother? How are you? And again, I think it does show you, the Bills defense is not anywhere near where it was in years past. And again, if Josh Allen is off, it definitely shows you even a team like the Dolphins, who are, one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, but it's a divisional opponent. Divisional opponents see you twice. They know you better than any other team besides the other 2 that are in the division with you. And again, it definitely feels like the AFC is up for grabs. And honestly, I would not be shocked if the Patriots or the Colts end up making the AFC Championship game this year. Again, we have to see more, but based on the sample that we've seen up to this point, they're legit, especially if you're going to get amazing running game out of JT for the Colts and the Patriots. They're not going to avoid the run. They're going to pound the rock. Drake May's had a beautiful arm this year, much improved. Defense always, going crazy. Christian Gonzalez from the Oregon Ducks is one of the best corners in the game in 2025. So it's definitely going to be very, very interesting as we get further along in this regular season. But for any of the, haters or the doubters, thinking that Denver, Indianapolis, or New England wouldn't be able to go deep this year, you have to watch the tape, and even though that Denver game was ugly on Thursday night, again, one thing that these 3 teams have in common, they have defenses that fly around, and again, they are able to pound the rock most of the time, and that'll open up that passing game. And here is the kickoff. Here we go. All right, we'll see what the Pittsburgh offense does here after that kick goes out of bounds. Dicka the kicker 55 yards, but you can't kick that out of bounds. First down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 40. Yeah. But I mean, even with the GM, or even if they decided to fire the head coach, it's a divisional opponent. So, records go out the window, and they played with more tenacity, and they wanted it more. And obviously, the Bills, when they were off in years past, Josh Allen could will them to a victory, but not so much anymore, as Pete with the penalty there on the false start. Got to be better, Andrew Pete. First down and 15 at the Pittsburgh 35. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. But it's nice always to see, kind of bad teams play well. But it hurts if you're a Bills fan, seeing your team lose like that. And again, it's like you can beat the Chiefs, but then you can't beat the Dolphins. So it definitely shows you the Chiefs and the Bills are nowhere near as dominant at the top of the AFC like they used to be. There's going to be wiggle room for like the Ravens, the Steelers, the Colts, the Patriots, the Broncos, maybe even the Chargers. So if you're like a second tier team, typically in the past, you might be a little bit higher. And at this point, the Broncos, the Colts, and the Patriots, all three of those teams look better week in and week out than the Bills and the Chiefs. Now, the Bills and Chiefs can still win a big game, and they have the experience on their side going to the playoffs. But again, this might be, a first, for those two teams where they might get knocked off at some point in 2025. Aaron Rodgers on first down and 15, little check down. And Warren with a little spin move. Good tackle there. Rodgers to Warren, 3-yard pass. Henley with the tackle there for the Chargers. Yeah, and again, Sarah's, Iowa Hawkeyes, I knew that was going to be a tough game. And again, that Atticus Sappington, kick there at the end. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, for a kid. And for him to make 3 field goals, that was huge. And we definitely could have lost that game, and we barely squeaked that one out, with, obviously missing our top receivers, top tight end, a guy on the offensive line, a starter, and, hard matchup to win on the road, but we got it done. Rodgers, short pass to Austin for 8 yards. Mickens there with the tackle. A couple yards after catch there. Third down and 4 at the Pittsburgh 46. I think he would be proud of this team. Again, you didn't really expect a whole lot with Aaron Rodgers, right? Based on what we saw at the Jets. And it's been a pleasant surprise, but the only problem now, as Rodgers is scrambling out of the pocket, incomplete. Now you got the Ravens kind of nipping, at your heels. They're Lamar is back. And we know the defense has issues at times for Baltimore. The play calling in the fourth quarter and the leadership by Harbaugh sometimes is a question, but again, it seems like slowly but surely, they're going to end up catching up to Pittsburgh, and they may pass them. And, I'm not sure if you're going to get 2 teams in the AFC North that make the playoffs this year. We might, but again, you got 3 competitive teams in the West, right? You got a couple there in the North, a couple in the South, I guess if you include the Jags with the Colts. And then obviously in the East, you got the Patriots and the Bills. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. And a nice punt there. Fair caught there by Davis. First down and 10 at the Charger 11. And obviously now with Alt and Slater out, it's going to make the running game for the Chargers that much more difficult. So don't be surprised if Justin Herbert has over 50 yards rushing here today. It could be a 50 to 65 yard rushing day for Justin Herbert, even as much as 70, depending on how this pocket breaks down. But when you don't have 2 of the best linemen in the game with Rashawn Slater and Alt in the lineup, this is definitely going to make things a little bit more difficult, you would assume, for Los Angeles here today. And Vidal there for 2 yards. Harrison and Benton with the tackle. Second down and 8 at the Charger 13. So you're going to have to run the football, Justin. You're going to have to be able to make quick reads. You're not going to be able to get to your second or third progression. And you're going to need a little bit of extra love from the defense today to come up with some turnovers on Aaron Rodgers if you're going to win this game. Yeah, I did see that. And Herbert there to Harris, and that was a loss of a yard. Pittsburgh defense flying around here early. 3rd down and 9 at the Chargers 12. Yeah, but it's kind of cool to be able to see like the next wave of teams. Like, again, we had New England as one of the best teams for 20 plus years with Brady. But after Brady left with Gronk and Belichick left, we didn't really know how long it would take for the Patriots to be considered good again. Maybe 10, 20 years. And now it's only a few years removed from Bill. And obviously they got the right coach in there doing a fantastic job. And again, Drake May finally showing his potential. Throw to the sideline, incomplete. And that's a 3 and out. And we saw Gadsden do a great job on one of the last streams that we did, with the Chargers playing with Justin Herbert. He's going to definitely have to be a factor, but good coverage by Pittsburgh, and that's going to be a 3 and out. 4th down and 9 at the Chargers 12. Tough loss today. Again, I still think that, we're one of the better teams, in the NFC, but again, not having, Bucky Irving and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Jamel Dean, having some of our regulars out there, it's starting to catch up to us. We're still competitive as the Chargers almost get that punt block by Pittsburgh. But, again, I still think that, we're going to definitely win the NFC South. We're much better than the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Saints. But if we can't get healthy, late in the year, we might not be able to beat any of the top dogs, including the Eagles, the Lions, the Packers, even though those are Packers is kind of borderline. Are they a contender or pretender? I guess we'll find out tomorrow. And obviously the Seahawks and the Rams. So it's like, even though that we've been able to beat some of those teams, like Seattle early in the year, we dropped games to obviously now the Patriots, the Eagles, and the Lions. Those are our 3 losses. So we're losing to 3 really, really good teams. But again, I think a lot of the, high end, like how many teams could actually win, without your top 2 wide receivers and your, first string running back? In reality, not very many. And again, I thought we fought hard, but the defense did not play well, especially on the ground. And Trayvon Henderson ate us up. And again, that typically doesn't happen by a Todd Bowles-led defense. But, I'm still confident that the team, if they can get healthy, they can win the NFC South for the 5th year in a row. And if we can get healthy at the right time, we can match up with anybody in the NFC. But again, it's definitely been a little rough the last few weeks. But I definitely feel the schedule has been really tough. If you actually look at the Buccaneers schedule, who we have to play and who we played recently, it's a little difficult, but again, you want to be challenged during the regular season. So that way, when you get to the playoffs, nothing is a surprise. Well, I feel like with the Packers, they're a good football team, but as far as like consistency compared to like, the Buccaneers or the Eagles or the Lions or the Seahawks or the Rams, I'm not sure if I would choose Green Bay over any of those teams. Now, if you're choosing them as like the last top tier team in the NFC, that's fine. But again, for them to be able to climb the ladder, from the Hawks and the Rams and the Bucks and the Eagles and the Lions, even though they did beat the Lions early in the year, this game tomorrow will be huge to be able to show, hey, can you actually beat arguably the best team in the NFC, in the Philadelphia Eagles, or are you going to roll over? And again, it's hard to beat a team like that, but it would be a huge statement win for that franchise and that fan base if they were able to get that dub. But even if they did lose that game, I'm not sure how many people actually feel that they have a chance, but anybody can beat anyone on any given Sunday, Monday, or Thursday. Ask the Miami Dolphins how they did against the Buffalo Bills today. So, bad teams can beat good teams, or bad teams can beat above average teams, that may have been elite and now have gone to the good category. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. First down and 10 for Aaron Rodgers, 3 wide receiver set. Hand off to Warren. And Jalen Warren with about a 4-yard gain. Owen there with the coverage. Second down and 6 at the Charger 42. Yeah, who's playing better than him? I mean, he's the best running back in the league. I mean, if you look at all his yards, his carries, touchdowns, I mean, it's like Saquon Barkley from last year. You know, and I'm not sure if there's anyone even close to Taylor, at the running back position. You know, and again, there's been games where he's bailed out Daniel Jones. And again, if you can get 2 or 3 scores on the ground, you don't need Daniel Jones to get 3 or 4 through the air, maybe just 1 or 2. And it's been a good formula for you guys. And a big hit there from the Chargers. Denzel Perryman. So I'm going to get you, make sure your head is on a swivel, Warren. Third down and 5 at the Charger 41. Five games with 3+ TDs. That's insane. That's amazing numbers. You know, and again, like I said, it's cool to be able to see the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Colts play good football this year. Obviously, I don't want to lose to any of those teams if they're on the schedule, but, you know, after watching that, entire Bucks Patriot game this morning, Drake May definitely has my respect, and so does Vrabel and McDaniels. They're doing great. Going deep, got a man, and incomplete. Rose, DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, and if that was just a little bit more on, based off the touch of the throw, that would have been a walk-in touchdown. Yeah, rest in peace. Tough situation for him. Fourth down and 5 at the Charger 41. Boswell, deep kick, almost 60 yards, and it's good. 59 yards. Oh my. You got Chris Boswell in fantasy. You just got 5 points, baby. Nice job by Chris. 3-0 Pittsburgh. And this will be much more high scoring than the, Broncos Raiders game. And again, I don't mind, a lower scoring affair if it's like a defensive gem, but we got to have some kind of big plays on offense. You can't have a score be, 10-7 and think that it's going to be like fully enjoyable. Again, at some point, as much as I love defense, pick sixes and fumbles and sack lunches and just incredible athleticism, with different plays, you got to have that right balance of enough scoring, but then you get the big defensive plays to kind of have the cherry on top. So. And let's just go quick peek at the standings right now. Something that we haven't seen in the NFL in many, many years. So you got the New England Patriots in first place, 8-2. Buffalo is 6-3. Steelers are 5-3 in the North. Ravens are 4-5, but they're nipping at their heels. It seems like they're going to be above 500 within a couple weeks, and they'll be right there with Pittsburgh. Colts improved to 8-2. Jaguars are 5-4. Houston 4-5. You may only get one team out of that division that makes the playoffs. Broncos 8-2, even though they win ugly. 6-3 Chargers. So this is a key game for them to keep pace with the Chiefs, as well as if, their chances of getting in as a wild card. And then the Chiefs are 5-4, but they're still in it. Eagles on the NFC side, number 1, 6-2. No competition between the Cowboys, Commanders, and Giants. All three of those teams are bad. Packers 5-2-1, Lions 6-3, Bears 6-3, which is kind of surprising, and Vikings 4-5. So, you would assume it's going to be the Lions and the Packers, but what happens if the Bears take the Packers spot in the playoffs? If they keep winning, it could happen. Tampa Bay 6-3, Carolina's 5-5, Atlanta 3-6, Saints 2-8. The Bucks will make the playoffs, even though we're banged up. And again, it's just about getting healthy so we can match up to the Lions, the Packers, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the others. And then in the West, the Seahawks and Rams are tied at the top of the division at 7-2. Both look like contenders. And the Niners drop. Obviously, they're at 6-4. And again, we feel like for a team that's been banged up like Tampa Bay, they're still, somewhat relevant, even though you're only going to get 2 teams in that particular division that are going to make the playoffs. You're not going to get more than likely the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. You're probably not going to get the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Rams. Realistically, you're probably going to get 2 teams in each. But if you were to get 3, you would assume the AFC West would be the team that would get 3. Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos. I don't think anyone anticipates the Niners making it this year. But again, we still got a little ways to go, and injuries could be crucial, to certain teams. If they have a major injury to their quarterback, that could open the door for San Francisco to get one of the last spots if that were to happen. Boswell with the kickoff, 61 yards, 27-yard return, and we're at first down and 10 at the Charger 31. Yeah, absolutely. So it's very important, not even for football players, but just for, all of us as well. People that aren't professional athletes, you got to make sure that you're on top of your mental health. And floater and complete. Ladd McConkey, the intended receiver. I like that combination with Herbert and McConkey. Benton was in coverage there. But for someone, that had very severe depression and anxiety, which I don't have anymore, and I haven't had it for, 2+ years. Obviously, Paisley has been a big factor, for me not having that anymore, as well as you guys, and keeping busy every day and, pursuing my dreams and my goals, and, making sure I'm sticking to, obviously a routine, which I feel is important for exercise and your diet. And if you stick to that, routine with exercise and diet every day, it can really turn your life around. Second down and 10, little check down, and close to the first down marker. And Quentin Johnston there, 9-yard reception. Third down and 1 at the Chargers 40. Marine Bean in the building. What's good? Can't wait. And again, as soon as spring training is gonna, start, I'm gonna be on it right away. I'm definitely gonna be watching the farm. Third down and 1, QB sneak there by Herbert with a little version of the tush push. I don't know if he got it. Doesn't look like it. And did not gain a yard. Good defense there by Pittsburgh. Fourth down and 1 at the Charger 40. But, if there's anything that's going to be televised, before we get into the regular season, I don't mind doing a few games. But again, with Root Sports out of the question, I'm very curious to see how quickly they're going to have this Mariner network up through the MLB app, if that's where we're going to, get it. And how much is it going to cost to watch Mariner games? And, that'll be an interesting thing. Hopefully it ends up not being too expensive. Hopefully it's like $10 a month or something like that, like somewhat affordable. Fourth down and 1. Herbert, tight formation here and a sneak. And I think they got just enough there. Herbert went a little bit lower. First down, Chargers, 2-yard run. And it also helps when Herbert is, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". When you got a big, lanky, tall, athletic body, you can definitely get a few of your, teammates there to help, obviously with that push, and they get that perfectly there. Yeah, I miss baseball. I always do. I love the NFL and college football. And again, I don't mind watching the Blazers and the Kraken, do their thing. Salute to the Kraken with Shane Wright with the overtime goal to win yesterday. But unfortunately, the Blazers and Denny Advia weren't able to get the dub against the Heat. So I went 2 for 2 this weekend. Ducks and Kraken with victories in very electric ways. Obviously, with Atticus Sappington with that field goal, and then Shane Wright with the overtime goal. But tough ones with the Buccaneers and the Blazers, but hopefully they'll get better as the season goes on. Thank you, the building. What's good? Big win. Second down and 9, and a little check down there. And Gadsden there with the catch. Third down and 3 at the Charger 49. And again, if you've watched, with Seattle, the main things that you notice is that the offensive line is good this year for the first time in many, many years. Typically it's like in the bottom 2 in the NFL. And then the defense is definitely on a very cohesive unit. And Sam Darnold and JSN, have got things clicking. So it's a number of reasons, that they might be a little ahead of a schedule, but they're just as good as the Rams or anybody in the NFC for that matter. I mean, I think most people would still have Philadelphia probably as the best team in the NFC, the most trustworthy team. But I think if you're a Packer, Lion, Buccaneer, Seahawk, Ram fan, you're not afraid. You feel that you're very, very close. If if the Eagles, are the top dog, it's not like so much where there's no one even close to them. Like in years past with maybe New England or Kansas City with Mahomes. So it definitely feels like the AFC and the NFC are up for grabs. Herbert passing complete to Keenan Allen. And now we got a 4th down and 3. Chargers with the punt. Yeah, I mean, JSN is pacing for 2,000 yards. So, again, we've never seen anything like that before. But, again, it definitely helps when you have a quarterback that actually can get you the ball, compared to guys, like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, where you might have a rotating door at quarterback and not someone consistent. And you got to be able to have that quarterback be healthy, and you have to be able to get those targets. But even with that being said, Jay Jetta and Jamar Chase are still putting up pretty good numbers, with everything considered. But just imagine, if they actually had a consistent quarterback that was healthy, how big those numbers could be. Very similar to what we saw with Burrow and Chase last year. Defense was terrible, but single-handedly, they were the best 1-2 combo for quarterback wide receiver in the NFL. They just couldn't get anybody to stop a nosebleed on defense. 1st down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 6, as that gets down there by Leonard, as we are on a commercial break. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's matchup, whether you love the Eagles or you hate them, whether you love Green Bay Packers or you hate them. It's going to be a fun one to be able to watch, and again, both have quarterbacks that are athletic. Obviously the Eagles have more depth, but depending on, how Green Bay plays, if they play up to the competition and they play well and they score first and they're able to punch Philadelphia in the mouth early, they will have a chance, to compete. Maybe not win, but they will compete. But again, if Philadelphia does the Philadelphia thing where, Jalen Hurts is unstoppable, the defense makes plays, special teams, still one of the best in the NFL. If they end up blocking a punt or something of that nature, then it's going to be a typical Philadelphia Eagle game where it's close for a few quarters, but then they eventually pull away. And, we'll see kind of how that plays out. And remember at the beginning of the year, Megan, you were worried that the Seattle Seahawks wouldn't be able to make the playoffs. And again, just because the Rams and the Niners were doing so much better early, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't get hot at the right time. And, even though it was rough early for Seattle in the first few weeks of the season, they definitely have turned that around tremendously. And again, Seattle is as good as anybody in the NFC. And, obviously the Niners are still kind of hanging around. But like I said, I assume that the Seahawks and Rams will pull away. And I'm happy to see Seattle, play well. Again, maybe a year ahead of schedule. But the O-line looks good. Defense looks good. JSN is electric. Darnold is a good fit. And the coaching has been very good in 2025. Congrats with that. And Johnson runs to the right end for a loss of 2. Caleb Johnson from Iowa. 2nd down and 12 at the Pittsburgh 4. Yeah, and it's awesome to have like low expectations, and then have expectations exceeded, and again, to, have those low expectations and then, maybe we'll win 7 to 10. Now it looks like you're going to win somewhere between like 10 and 14. And that's pretty fucking exciting. So, and again, the Rams aren't going away. The Niners are still hanging around. And obviously Green Bay, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Tampa are still going to be in the mix. But it definitely is going to be an exciting playoffs on the NFC side for sure. Not to say the AFC won't be exciting. That will be as well. But feels like more of the teams in the NFC are more well-rounded. Offense, defense, special teams On the AFC side, it's more offense, for most of those teams. Some have a good defense, but, it definitely is a little bit more hit or miss, with the good teams over there. The Chiefs and Bills aren't as good. Obviously, we know the Colts, got the best running back in the league this year. Denver's got a great defense, but their offense with Bo sputters at times. And then obviously the New England Patriots got both offense and defense. And I learned that lesson today that Drake May is the truth. And, it's good to be able to see that quarterback develop. 3rd down and 7 for Rodgers. Steps up in the pocket, avoids a sack lunch, drops the football. And that's a safety. Wow. Big safety there. And obviously we know Rodgers is 40 plus, and he probably should have just threw that ball away. And, crazy start to this game. But again, we know that Pittsburgh will get in the end zone at some point before this one is over. But again, the pressure from the Chargers, he should have stepped up in the pocket, threw it away, decided to hang on the ball. He dropped it. And luckily he fell on it, because if that ball would have squirted out, that would have been a touchdown for Khalil Mack and the Chargers there. And, for a guy like Khalil Mack, even though he's old, it shows you he can still play. He can still, get to the quarterback in bursts. And great defensive play there by the Bolts. 3-2 Pittsburgh lead. Yeah, the Rams game is going to be incredible. And shout out to Shane Wright. I've been watching pretty much every Kraken game and every Blazer game when, they're on, to be able to see their development. And again, it's exciting to see how good the Kraken have improved. And same thing with the Blazers. And there's a good chance that both of those teams could make the playoffs this year, which would be awesome. But also, if the offensive line was bad, Darnold wouldn't be talked about. And again, the offensive line is drastically improved. The defense is better. And again, getting a new play caller definitely helped. JSN is doing his thing. And they didn't even need Horton today, obviously with the injury. And again, after we saw the Cardinals, beat up the Cowboys, Seattle's in a different realm. And all of those teams in the afternoon beat up their opponents in that afternoon slate, almost doubling up their opponents, which I don't know if I've seen that before in the NFL season in 2025. Seahawks 44, Cardinals 22, doubling them up. Rams 42, Niners 26, almost doubling them up. And then Lions 44, Commanders 22, doubling them up. So, to have 3 games that are blowouts in the afternoon was definitely not something that I was expecting. Flying Monkey in the building. What's good? Yeah, it happens, and again, you just got to be able to win games and, to try to prove the haters and the doubters wrong. And, obviously the further you get into the playoffs, the more respect that you're going to get from opponents, opposing fan bases, and again, the more that we're able to see, the more exposure that he'll be able to get. And obviously the offensive line has been a big credit on, why Sam has been as good as he is. Because again, if he didn't have time to go through his progressions, the running game wouldn't be very good. And obviously his passing game wouldn't be as good. So kudos to the O-line for making Sam obviously be the Sam Darnold that we saw last year, with Minnesota. And a kind of a similar type of setup, good weapons, defense has played pretty good. Offensive line, has given him time. And, again, anytime you're a journeyman, it takes time to get the respect. You're not going to get it right away. Look at Baker Mayfield, my quarterback, got drafted by the Browns after having a successful career at Oklahoma, didn't, succeed there because that's a garbage franchise, right? They don't have the right leadership. Went to Carolina, got a tryout there, went to the Rams, for a few games with Sean McVay, proved himself, got a chance to come to Tampa, and now we got our franchise quarterback for the rest of his career. So sometimes it's not the first place where you get drafted or where you land. Sometimes you got to go to your second, third, fourth team to be able to find that perfect fit. And we got a false start there. Deculus with the false start. 3rd down and 9 at the Charger 35. Good to hear, man. Good to hear. Third down and 9, shotgun set. Herbert passing complete, short middle to Johnston. And that was right at the marker. I'm not even sure if he would have gotten that first down. 4th down and 9 at the Charger 35. Yeah, I think we've been under that conclusion for years now. So, and again, if you have a good attitude and you're a good person, even after you leave a franchise, you'll still get some kudos, if you're playing well. But again, if you're kind of a suspect individual, you might not be the greatest person, or teammate, and then your game goes, completely off the wayside and you fall off a cliff. You're not only going to get the disrespect from, others, that you can't play anymore, but then on top of that, you're not really a likable person, on top of that either. Now, there are going to be some people that still love him to death, and that's completely fine. Everyone's got favorite players that maybe others that, would not agree with or not like. Everyone is free to love whoever they want, athlete-wise, but, doesn't hurt my feelings to see him, and again, honestly, at this point, he's just collecting a paycheck. I think he knows, in his mind, even though he may not admit it to himself, even though he probably still thinks that he's one of the top, 5 or 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, which is not true. But, obviously we know with Jackson Dart and, what they have, even with Jameis Winston, you have a better chance of winning games with, guys like that rather than a guy that, just really can't do it anymore. And, he had a good run, but that run is over. 11-yard return there out the punt. 1st down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 21. First down and 10 for Rodgers. First down, DK Metcalf. Move the chains. 19-yard gain there from Rodgers to DK. Derwin James and Jackson in coverage. First down and 10, handoff. And Jalen Warren gets postered there by Perryman. God, Perryman is tough out there. He hits hard. 2nd down and 6 at the Pittsburgh 44. Shotgun set. Rodgers with a laser. Wow, 15-yard pass to Washington. First down, Steelers. Move the chains. That was pretty. Rodgers might be, old as hell, but he still can sling it from time to time. Could be. Again, as long as Daniel Jones and JT, keep playing the way that they're playing, Warren, we already knew how great he was at Penn State and whatnot. And, it's nice to be able to see like the next wave of tight ends, start to impact the NFL. Cause, we had Kelsey and Kittle and Mark Andrews, as the top dogs for such a long time. Now you're starting to see kind of the next wave of the tight ends, which is very nice to see. And Jaylen Warren, nice 9-yard run there toward that left side. Hart with the tackle. Second down and 1 at the Charger 32. Yeah, my favorite holiday of the year. First quarter winding down. And timeout here by the Steelers. .25 seconds left here in the first quarter. 3-2 Pittsburgh, but you kind of feel like the scoring, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I don't think it's going to be as low scoring, as that obviously Bronco and Raider game that we had. Reggie Miller in the building. Mookie Betts in the building. Dan Fouts. Go Ducks. Oh, Troy Polamalu, one of my favorite, defenders. Oh, Snoop Dogg. You got everybody out there today. Obviously, Snoop, a big Steeler fan. Oh, birthday coming up too. Nice. Man in motion. And Jaylen Warren running to that right side. Gain of about 3 yards there. First down, Steelers. Nice jump cut there, and that will be the end of the first quarter. Not exactly the score that anybody really predicted, 3-2. Kind of sounds more like a baseball score with the Pirates, going against the Dodgers or something of that nature. But again, it's been an entertaining first quarter, even though the score is only 3-2. And again, I do believe, some of the big playability will happen for Rodgers and Herbert before this one is up. There's just too many athletes out there for them to be, sitting in the 14 or under range. It feels like we will get into the 20s with both of these teams. And I don't necessarily think we're going to be in the 30s or 40s, but I guess you never know. Yeah, I went to USC. You'll see him in all the Head and Shoulders, commercials with anything that has to do with his hair and hair products. Smart. Obviously, if you're out of football at that point, then you can make money off, an endorsement through your hair. Do you make that money? End of the first quarter, 3-2 Pittsburgh. Gained another sub since we had the last commercial break. 31 subs to go to 23,300. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Sunday night football, Steelers 3, Chargers 2. Second quarter going to start here momentarily. I'm definitely looking forward to the Eagles and Packers matchup. And that will be the stream that we'll do tomorrow. And then as we get further into the week, usually, if we end up doing the Kraken or the Blazers, I assume the days most likely those will happen will be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, this Friday, the Oregon Ducks play, so obviously I'll be doing that. But on Tuesday or Wednesday, if we have one of those days that's open, usually those will be the days that we'll do, Blazers, Kraken. We did our first NBA stream. We got some good numbers with that. Obviously, we beat the Thunder and gave them their first loss. But again, it's been kind of an up and down season at this point for Portland, but it definitely feels like we could be a playoff team. And, same thing with the Kraken. They've been battling. They look a hell of a lot better than last year. And, to get a goal with about a second left and then to have Shane Wright get the game winner, it's awesome to be able to see the Kraken with this new identity, with the new coach, Mason Marchment coming in, with some leadership. We've had a few injuries to a few key guys, but it hasn't really held them back, which is awesome to see. And a 9-yard pass there from Rogers to Freiermuth. And that's a 9-yard gain. 2nd down and 1 at the Chargers 20. Have you been watching their games like week in and week out, the Blues? Or has it just been something you've been looking in the standings and kind of just watching from afar? I mean, obviously, we're still kind of in NFL college football season, so I guess it just depends on your, what you're doing in your free time and whatnot, what you're watching. 2nd down and 1, handoff, and a nice run there by Warren. 1st down, Steelers, but that is going to be a flag on the play, and I assume that's going to be holding, and that's coming back. Yep. Troy Fataanu. 9-yard penalty now. Second down and 10. Total plays, 15 for Pittsburgh, 13 from the Chargers. Everything pretty down the middle. And again, defenses have been playing well for both up to this point. But something's got to give. Shotgun set, Rogers. Pressure off the edge. Wide open. What a catch. Wow. Jonnu Smith. 1st down, Steelers. And, Jonnu used to be good back in the day, with the Titans and whatnot. And, again, hasn't really had the same type of impact, maybe earlier in his career, but still a gamer. And looks like if he hangs on to this football or not. He bobbled it. There's a piece of that football that hit the turf. He tried to get his arms cradled underneath it. Wow. And he bounces off the turf with the ball. That might be incomplete. All right, they're going to challenge that. If anyone is looking to watch an amazing sci-fi show, obviously everyone knows that that's my favorite genre. But if you have watched Apple TV Plus and if you watch Severance and you love that show, which I absolutely love, Pluribus, made by the same individual, Gilligan, and when you end up watching a show that's made by somebody that made Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, the show is going to be good. And they debuted the first 2 episodes, and I highly recommend it. So if you like sci-fi and you have access to Apple TV Plus, Pluribus is definitely a must-watch. It's very, very good, just like Severance is. And I feel like with Apple TV Plus shows, they may not have a bunch, compared to other, apps and whatnot that you purchase or, you end up, getting content month in and month out. But for the stuff that they do come out with, a lot of it is pretty good. Like, especially in sci-fi, I feel like sci-fi Apple TV Plus is on like a whole nother level. And I feel like those 2 shows might be the most creative shows that I've seen in a year or two. And then obviously, if you love Netflix, Stranger Things 5, we're going to end up having a couple parts to that in November, December, and then right before the new year. And I definitely will be locked onto my TV for Stranger Things 5. They won the challenge and the call got reversed. So now it'll be 3rd down and 10 at the Chargers 29. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Florida. Nice. I'm ready for a touchdown or two. And again, it's, defenses have definitely been winning the battle up front, in the trenches. But again, too many athletes, whether Rodgers goes to DK Metcalf or Jalen Warren gets in. And then obviously with the Chargers, Herbert, has plenty of options with his arm and his legs to be able to get the job done on that side as well. So. Two-yard pass, Rodgers to Gainwell, 4th down and 8 at the Charger 27. And field goal is up and missed, wide right, wow. Boswell, who normally is automatic with the miss. How are you going to miss that, Boswell? Sarah with the 2, appreciate that. Every dollar counts. Stacks, racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. We're at 2:98 to go to hit the goal. And if there's anything you want to see, photo-wise, JT, Daniel Jones, let me know and I got you. Hero in the building. What's good? And a short swing pass there on that screen from Herbert to Harris. 5-yard gain. 2nd down and 5 at the Chargers 40. Good to see you, bro. Five and 3 Pittsburgh Steelers, 6 and 3 Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, there's a lot of on the line in this matchup for the winner and the loser, based on the trajectory of where their season may go. And again, if you're Pittsburgh, it's a must-win game because the Ravens are coming. And if you're the Chargers, it's a must-win game. So that way you can keep pace with Denver and try to keep ahead of, the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's a lot on the line, in this matchup here today. And Herbert, short pass there to Quentin Johnston for 8 yards. 1st down. Chargers, move the chains. I got you. 1st down and 10. Pass incomplete. Deep right to Quentin Johnston. 2nd down and 10 at the Charger 48. Second down and 10, shotgun set. Vidal up the middle, and a nice run there, 11 yards. First down, Chargers. Move the chains. You got to be extremely happy, too, that you finally were able to work out all of the money and the contract, issues and whatnot with him from a couple years ago. Remember, there was a time where people were like, well, if we have to move on from him, so be it. But again, talent like that is not something that you can find just anywhere. And, we know that running backs get hurt pretty often, but obviously JT is showing that, more times than not, when he's healthy, he's a top 5 back. And this year he's the best back, just like Saquon was last year. And, I'm glad that you guys were able to come to an agreement, a few years back. And again, who knows what the team would look like if he wasn't there, and definitely one of the key components for Daniel Jones and his success for the Colts in 2025. Yeah, Cam is always going to come out with the celebrations. You guys got a squad this year. Little JT, little Cam Bynum. I see you. Awesome. First down and 10. Herbert passes short right to Gadsden. 5-yard gain. Second down and 5 at the Pittsburgh 36 on that play action. Little bootleg. And it's always good when you have a safety net at tight end. Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, you guys have been pretty lucky with injuries this year compared to, some other teams like mine and the Niners and a few others. And hopefully you don't have any major injuries on the back end of the season. Again, it definitely will determine a lot if, the teams that are at the top can stay healthy. Denver, New England, as well as the Indianapolis Colts, as you get a WWE takedown there by Pittsburgh. Herbert to Davis. Pierre says Brock Lesnar F5. Davis gets picked up and thrown down. Very NWO-like. Third down and 2. Vidal on that right side for 8 yards. Patrick Queen with the coverage. First down, Chargers. Bolt up. Yeah, DeForest Buckner. And the way that these teams are so evenly matched, it may come down to who has the ball last that wins this game. And again, obviously a very unorthodox, crazy score, more like a baseball score rather than a football game with the safety and a field goal. And then we obviously had another missed field goal by Boswell, so they could be up 6-2, but let's see if we can get a touchdown here before halftime by one or both teams. Herbert getting chased from behind. And that's 12 noon. You know what time it is. It's time for a Steeler sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Nick Herbig with a big sack lunch. Second down and 15 at the Pittsburgh 30. Yeah, I like when they do that, especially when they have those bets going on and they're very passionate, about their school, whether they win or they lose. So here we go. Herbert, short middle. That's my guy. Lad McConkey, baby. Hell yeah. 16 yards. First down, Chargers. Keep going to McConkey. Keep going to Ladd. Here we go. First down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 14, and you can go to McConkey. You can go to Gadsden. You have a number of options here. You can go to Keenan Allen, the old wily vet. And again, you got to remember, no Alt and no Slater. So when you have two of the best offensive linemen, not just on the Chargers, but in general in the NFL that are out, this offensive line is decimated. So Herbert's going to have to do a little bit more with his legs, and he's going to have to release the football a hell of a lot quicker than he's used to. Herbert. And going back there to Arande Gadsden II, incomplete. Second down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 14. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. This might be the most entertaining 3-2 game I've seen, just because these two teams are good and, they have a style of play that is, not necessarily boring to watch by any means. Again, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be for everyone, but him on the Steelers has been a good fit this year. Herbert, floater. Incomplete. Gadsden, the intended tight end there. Now, if that was, Antonio Gates, that would have been a touchdown. Highsmith with the coverage. That was an incredible move there by Highsmith. Holy cow. But got to be careful when you're going around those legs. I don't want to see Herbert get hurt. We don't want any hip drop tackles or anything crazy. Third down and 10. Herbert. Almost intercepted. Wow. And they're going to have to settle for a field goal. Fourth down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 14. Yeah, when we watched him on Penn State, you could already tell that he was going to be like a Sam Laporta, a guy that's going to be an impact, player on day one. It's nice to see Abuka and Warren, having great rookie seasons. 32-yard field goal is up and good. Not sure if you're going to see too many scores of 5-3. We still got a baseball score going on in the game, but it has been an entertaining first half. We just need, these teams to be able to punch it into the end zone, and, we'll see if Aaron Rodgers is able to do it, but it's been a defensive juggernaut type of matchup so far, but you would assume with Rodgers and Herbert's ability eventually in the second half, defenses will get a little bit more fatigued, and that should open the door for, a few touchdowns in the second half before this one is over. Crazy that the Dolphins ended up beating the Bills today, but that's what makes the NFL, just so unpredictable, but also predictable at times, because again, normally when you have a powerhouse team, when you get an L and you shouldn't lose, a lot of times it is a divisional opponent, not just some random bad team that beat you, but it could be a bad team that's in your division that plays you twice, that knows you, inside and out. But obviously we know jobs are on the line in Miami, and, they fired the GM instead of firing the head coach, and they might end up firing the head coach at the end of the year. They won't do it during the middle of the year after firing the GM, but whatever, motivates you as a player. And again, you don't really see Josh Allen play like that often, but again, the defense is nowhere near, and it's not like they were ever really great at defense, even when they were going against Mahomes, year in and year out. There would be times where the defense would be better, in some years than others, but it definitely has been a weak link. And if you don't have a true number one receiver, like Diggs when he was there, obviously you have a few guys that you can get the ball to, but not like a true superstar at wide receiver. That definitely has impacted their game. And even though they've gotten James Cook now, obviously they're receiving game, they got a lot of qualified, individuals that can make plays and get in the end zone. They don't really have that top dog like they had before, and that is something that's missing from that team for sure. Field goal is good by Dicka the Kicker. 5-3 Charger lead. 2-1 Stars over the Kraken. Let's go Kraken. Love seeing Shane Wright and the squad, get that overtime victory yesterday. And again, and one thing that I have noticed this year also with the Kraken, we're scoring way more goals than we ever have. Maybe besides, the year that we actually made the playoffs, with Hack a few years back. Like, we're scoring goals even when we lose. Like, we're actually putting up, 3, 4, 5, even in losses. And that's not something that we used to do. A lot of times when we would lose, it would be like 0, maybe 1, maybe 2 at the most. But then now, we're winning games. But then also when we lose, it's like we're not getting blown out. Like, we might lose at the very end. And that's kind of cool to see. Now, there was a blowout a few days ago where they ended up getting beat up by the San Jose Sharks. What was it, like 6-1, something like that, 6-1, 6-2. That was not ideal. But other than that, they haven't had too many, ass whoopings. And I'm really happy to see that. First down and 10. Shotgun set, and Rogers, 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a Charger sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Wow. And Bud Dupree. Former Steeler Bud Dupree laying the wood. Second down and 11 at the Pittsburgh 27. Yeah, I watched that game. But again, that is pretty rare for 2025 Kraken hockey, and again, hopefully we don't get blown out like that too often. But more times than not, they're doing a great job. It's great to see the confidence they have. And Warren, 3-yard run there by Jalen Warren, running to that left side. Molden with the tackle. Third down and 8 at the Pittsburgh 30. Shotgun set on third down and 8. Rogers, deep right pass to Austin, incomplete. Fourth down and 8 at the Pittsburgh 30. Wow, great coverage there by the Chargers. Nico Reed with blanketed coverage, making a great play on the ball there. Nice job by Nico Reed. I mean, the way that he has the players coached up this year, it looks like it could be possible that Lane might have some more long-term longevity, with the team, especially if we make the playoffs this year and then we're able to do it like in consecutive years and start, building something special, which it kind of feels like it is building something special there. Same thing with the Blazers as well. Again, sometimes you just got to have that right individual with the right players in the right year, and everything just kind of magically comes together. Fair caught there by Davis. After Waitman there with the punt. First down and 10 at the Charger 19. 5-3 Chargers, and we got 5:49 left. Let's see if the Los Angeles and Justin Herbert can get a touchdown here before we get into halftime. Colts 31, Falcons 25 in OT, Bears 24, Giants 20. And that might be one of the more surprising teams in 2025 in the Chicago Bears with their 6-3 record. Dolphins 30, Bills 13 in the biggest upset of the weekend. Ravens 27, Vikings 19, getting closer to Pittsburgh's record and overtaking them in the division possibly in a few weeks. The battle of the bads, the Browns and the Jets. Jets are victorious 27-20. Patriots 28, Buccaneers 23. Baker tried to bake, but just not enough defense to stop Travion Henderson. The Ohio State Buckeye runs all over the Buccaneers for 14 carries, 147 yards, and 2 tutties, and that was the difference. Saints 17, Panthers 7. Texans 36, Jags 29. Hawks 44, Cardinals 22. Rams 42, Niners 26. Lions 44, Commanders 22, Broncos beating the Raiders 10-7 on Thursday night. And then I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, Monday Night Football, Eagles and Packers. Snoop living his best life, huh? Shotgun set. Vidal runs to that right side. Good blocking up front there by the O-line. First down, Chargers. Move the chains. Duggar and Queen in coverage there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Herbert, short left to Quentin Johnston. Little screen pass and a 3-yard gain. 2nd down and 7 at the Chargers 33. Less than 5 minutes to go here in the second quarter. 5-3 Chargers up on the Steelers. A little bit of a baseball score here early. But I do think the offense will open up in the second half. We'll get some touchdowns. And Herbert, little check down and complete. Flag on the play. That's going to be probably holding, I would assume, on the offensive line, especially with no Alt and Slater. You know, it's going to be a really hard challenge for the Chargers to, make the playoffs, and then let alone to be able to be efficient, with the 2 offensive linemen, that are 2 of the best in the NFL not available for Los Angeles. That's tough. Who scored the goal for the Kraken? And who was in net today? Was it Decord? Shotgun set. On 2nd down and 17, little screen pass. And Vidal showing his athleticism there. 3rd down and 4 after that 13-yard pass by Herbert. We're at the Charger 36. About 4 minutes left here before halftime. Chargers up 5-3. Murphy in net. Okay. Schwartz. Okay. When do the Kraken play next? And obviously both teams are bringing the blitz on 3rd down, and another sack lunch on Justin Herbert. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Benton is there. Yum, 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 yum. 4th down and 11 at the Charger 29. And again, when it ends up being 3rd down and short or 3rd down and long, you can almost put a bet in that you're going to get both of these teams blitzing on that down more times than not. And they both have been able to get to the quarterbacks, Rodgers and Herbert, here today. Both teams definitely need a facelift on the offensive line. For the Chargers, it's just injuries to Alt and Slater. For Steelers, they just need to be able to draft a few guys or try to get some guys in free agency to beef up that line. Fair caught by Keyshawn Williams. First down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 23. Tuesday against the Blue Jackets. Home or on the road? About 3 minutes left here before halftime. 5-3 Chargers. We got a baseball score because, the defenses for both teams are getting to the quarterback, especially on third down. Just hasn't been too many openings yet, but I do believe that a couple big deep throws will happen, for both teams, in the second half. Halfback toss. 4-yard gain there by Jalen Warren. At home, okay. Second down and 6 at the Pittsburgh 27. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Man in motion. Shotgun set. Rodgers. Intercepted. Big pick. Wow. Big interception there on Aaron Rodgers. And now let's see if Herbert can finally capitalize. And again, they're going to have to get rid of the football quickly. First turnover of the game, Aaron Rodgers throws it right to Mickens. Mickens says, "Thank you very much, RJ. I see you." Overthrew DK Metcalf. That was the intended receiver there for Aaron Rodgers. And a great interception there by RJ Mickens. Right place, right time. And now Herbert's got about 2 minutes to be able to get, not very many yards, just a couple first downs, about 40 yards, 30 yards, and he'll be in there. First down and 10. And Vidal up the middle, and he's been definitely breaking through, against this defensive line of Pittsburgh. 8-yard gain. Second down and 2 at the Pittsburgh 30, and they don't really have an answer for Vidal, whether he runs up the middle or bounces it to the outside. And now we are at the 2-minute warning. Big interception there for Aaron Rodgers. RJ Mickens takes advantage. And now let's see if Justin Herbert can either use his legs or his arm to be able to get the first touchdown of the game. Second down and 2 at the Pittsburgh 30 as we wait for the commercial break. And Vidal bounces it to the outside. And about a 3-yard run to that left side. First down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 27. Move the chains. Got about a minute 30 left here before halftime. Let's see if, Gadsden or Keenan Allen or Ladd McConkey, someone's got to be able to get open here. Quentin Johnston, first down and 10. And a short pass to that right side to Johnston, 7-yard gain with the screen pass after he jukes a defender, and a gain of maybe 1 or 2 turned into 7. Second down and 3 at the Pittsburgh 20. Shotgun set. Herbert short right to Gadsden. 2-yard pass there. Third down and 1 at the Pittsburgh 18. And timeout is called by the Chargers. Third down and 1 at the Pittsburgh 18. Third down and 1 at the Pittsburgh 18. 5-3 Charger lead. Handoff by Vidal and gets that first down. First down. Bolts. Move the chains. 2-yard run there by Vidal. They don't really have an answer for him. First down and 10. Herbert passing complete short right to Keenan Allen. Pierre with the coverage. Second down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 16. Seconds left here before halftime. Let's see if Herbert can punch it in. Three wide receiver set. Shotgun set for Herbert. He's got a man. He's open. Touchdown. Chargers. There he is. Ladd McConkey, baby. I knew we would get one before halftime. There we go. Nice job there by Justin Herbert to Ladd McConkey, my boy. Extra point is up and good. There you go, J. Herb. Lad McConkey doing Lad McConkey things, baby. Herbert to Lad. Touchdown. Chargers 12-3 Los Angeles. No, this one's Devin White, but I got Sapp and I got a lot, obviously there, but not A Train. I do love Mike Allstott though. One day, hopefully I can end up getting like a red or a white. But if you have a choice between the red or the white definitely is going to be the one that pops a little bit more. Good selection. First down and 10 here with 12 seconds left. I'm not really sure if Pittsburgh's going to try to, make a play or if they're just going to hand the ball off and, we'll end up going into halftime here down by 9. First down and 10. Aaron Rodgers pass incomplete. Deep right. No. Deep left to Wilson. Second down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 35. And that was almost intercepted there as well. Minnie in the building. How are you? Got 1 second left for a possible Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary. We've seen him complete this play, a lot when he was on Green Bay. But, you're on the 35. This would have to be an incredible throw, but we'll see. And a quick pass there, incomplete to Austin. Third down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 35. All right, we got 1 second left before halftime. Chargers up 12-3. Definitely has been a defensive battle between both teams up to this point. Both teams are fiercely blitzing on third down, getting big sacks on Rodgers and Herbert. And again, at some point, you would assume Rodgers will find the end zone, but the Chargers have done a good job up to this point. How'd you do in fantasy, Minnie? All right, we're down to the last play before halftime here. Justin Herbert to Lad McConkey just moments ago to get them the 12-3 lead. And let's see what kind of trickery that Pittsburgh has in line here. Little screen pass, and that'll be it. Wilson, 8-yard gain. And we are at halftime. And luckily, halftime won't be that long, only 12 minutes. And we'll be right back into the action. So almost as soon as they get into the locker room, they'll be turning back and heading back onto the field. Just enough time to use the restroom, change your cleats, go over a quick game plan for the second half. Enough time for us to be able to look at a few highlights from some of the other games. And then we'll be right back in it in the third quarter, and the Chargers are going to be the ones receiving the second half kickoff, so not ideal if you are a Steeler fan here today. Yeah, Vidal is actually an underrated running back. He actually runs pretty hard. Blocking up front has been pretty good for him, and there could be a chance that he might hit the end zone before the game is over. There might be a chance there. And you got Jacobs and Hurts on Monday night. Yeah, I expect tomorrow's game to be pretty entertaining. Obviously we know both offenses can, move the football most of the time, but how will the defenses fare, for Philadelphia as well as Green Bay? And obviously if the game was in Philadelphia, it would be very, very difficult for Green Bay to win that game. But since the game is in Green Bay at Lambeau, obviously being able to feed off that crowd, and then Philly being on the road, that could, give Philly maybe some problems, but we will find out. But it's definitely going to be a good one tomorrow. That will be the stream that we do tomorrow on Monday night. Yeah, those are two individuals that are good to have, Trey and JSN, for sure. I mean, obviously Brissett has to go to somebody since Kyler is still injured, so. Good to hear. And then as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, I'll be looking at Blazers or Kraken, depending on what the schedule looks like. Then we'll be doing Thursday night football. And then after we go, let's see what's peek ahead. So Thursday night will be the Jets and the Patriots. And obviously we know the Patriots just came off beating my team, the Buccaneers, today. And they look very, very good. It'll be awesome to be able to see Drake May again. I was hoping maybe for a little bit better of an opponent than the Jets, but they did end up getting a win over the Browns. And we'll see if the Jets can come up with a big upset. Not very likely, but hell, the Dolphins ended up beating the Bills today, so you never know. And then on Friday, the Ducks play, I believe, against Minnesota. And then on the next Sunday, we will be, Lions and Eagles. Two of my favorite teams to watch other than my own on Sunday Night Football next weekend. That'll be awesome. And then you got the Cowboys and the Raiders, the battle of the bads on that Monday night. But since both teams are kind of bad, that actually could turn into maybe, a decent game. Well, let's hope. Yeah, it was tough. Obviously the defense did not play well, and it was one of those games that reminded me, we really need Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving healthy, and not having Jamel Dean on that defensive side, but Travion Henderson, the rookie running back from the Buckeyes, he ran all over, and anytime you let a running back run for, 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's the difference. And if we were able to play better defense, on the run game, I think we would have been able to squeak it out, but some sloppy plays, and you got to give New England credit. They finally have an identity after Brady and Gronk and Belichick have finally left, and Vrabel has done a good job. Josh McDaniels is calling great plays for Drake May. They had some injuries to their running backs, and it definitely didn't hurt them. Defense with Christian Gonzalez, one of the best corners in the game from the Ducks, showing that he is a top 2 corner in the league this year, and New England is the real deal. And again, I would not be shocked, if the Bills or the Chiefs get knocked off by, Indianapolis or Denver or even New England. It could happen. And again, we've been so conditioned to see how good, the Chiefs and the Bills have been the last 4 or 5 years. And it kind of feels like everyone is caught up, to those two teams and even surpassed those two teams, some of the teams at the top, like the Colts, the Broncos, and the Pats. So, but again, they do have one thing that those other teams don't have a whole lot of, is playoff experience. And obviously that'll be the thing that will, hold the Chiefs and the Bills together to a certain degree. But, again, if you end up getting a team that's, hot and healthy, Broncos, Colts, Patriots, those are 3 teams that could possibly upset, teams that we're used to being in the AFC Championship game or in the Super Bowl. So we got about 6 minutes to go here before halftime is up. Chargers up 12-3, and again, it's been a battle in the trenches, lots of blitzing on third down, and you're just not able to really go through your progressions. Now, the Steelers' offensive line always has been kind of underwhelming. And then with the Chargers, not really their fault. They're just cursed with injuries, and Slater and Alt are out, and those are two of the best offensive linemen, not just for the Chargers, but overall in the NFL. But Herbert is still finding opportunities, with quick release to be able to get Vlad McConkey into the end zone, and we have a 12-3 Charger lead. Finally, we're off the baseball score, even though we have seen some baseball games at 12-3, but I feel Chargers are still, due for a couple more touchdowns, I hope, so they can get into the mid-20s. And then for Pittsburgh, I don't know, best case scenario for them might be trying to get to 17, but I'm not even sure if they will be able to do that. We will find out. The three losses that the Bucs have this year are all to three really good teams. Philadelphia Eagles, arguably the best team in the NFC. The Detroit Lions, one of the top 3-4 teams in the NFC, and one of the top 3 teams in the AFC, and the New England Patriots. So, obviously, I want a better record than that, but I can't complain. And now we just got to put our head down and take care of business. And then we play the Bills on the road. The schedule just keeps throwing us these tough matchups, and that, even though the Bills lost, to the Dolphins, they're going to definitely want to take it out on Tampa, and we already just lost in New England, so it's going to take a hell of an effort, and hopefully Bucky Irving will be back sooner than later, because as we keep continuing to drop games without a solid, consistent running game with no Bucky Irving, it's starting to catch up to us now, and we obviously miss Mike Evans and Chris Godwin a hell of a lot too. And not to say that Ibuka and the others are doing well, Tez Johnson also, but you definitely want to have your top tier players playing, and your backups are only going to be able to do so much for so long, and eventually you're going to get beat up, and hopefully we'll be able to compete next week. But that'll be a tough game against an angry Bills team that will try to take it out, and obviously it's going to be tough on the road, but hopefully they'll be able to compete and find a way to get the dub. Let's look at the matchups next week. We got Commanders and Dolphins, Panthers and Falcons, Buccaneers and Bills will be one of the best games of the weekend, Texans and Titans, Bears, Vikings, Green Bay and the New York Giants, Bengals and Steelers, Chargers and Jags, Seahawks, Rams will be very, very good. That will probably be the best game overall. Niners, Cardinals, Ravens, Browns. That's always a physical matchup. Chiefs, Broncos. That'll be a good one. And then Lions, Eagles. There's some pretty good matchups. Lions, Eagles, must-see TV. Chiefs, Broncos, must-see TV. Seahawks, Rams, must-see TV. And Buccaneers, Bills, must-see TV. That's actually surprising. We have that many good matchups for next weekend. I definitely will be locked in watching all of those. 3 minutes to go before halftime is up. All right, let's take a look at some stats here real quick. All right, Aaron Rodgers, 7 for 14, 64 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked twice. And again, the offensive line hasn't really done a very good job. And then his interception was obviously not a good throw. And for Justin Herbert, 13 for 22, 91 yards, 1 touchdown, no pick, sacked twice. And Herbert's got 3 carries for 5 yards, and I assume that number will go up at some point in the second half. And obviously the only touchdown of the game, one of my favorite up-and-coming wide receivers, Ladd McConkey. All right, about a minute 30 to go before halftime is up, and the Chargers will receive. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Carries, 49 yards for Vidal. He could end up hitting pay dirt as well. Robert in the building. What's good? Cody in the building. What's good? 12-3 Chargers lead at halftime. And the Chargers are going to get the second half kickoff here in just a minute or two. And that missed field goal by Boswell might come back to haunt them. I mean, they're still down by 9, but if they were able to have that Boswell field goal in, then being down 12-6, obviously, closes the gap a little bit more. But both offensive line, I think the Charger offensive line, obviously, has done a little bit better than Pittsburgh's, and both defensive lines have done well. But again, the battle in the trenches is going to be won by the team that has a better O-line and D-line, and so far that's going to be the Los Angeles Chargers. Even though Pittsburgh's D on third down has been good on Herbert, but at some point, they're going to start slowing down, and they're going to have to either try to be able to blitz more than just on third down to try to get a tipped pass in the air for an interception for the Steeler defense, or you're going to have to try to strip it. And again, 7 for 14 for 64 yards. And no touchdowns and 1 pick is not going to be good enough to win the game. Second fewest in first downs in the first half of a career, only 3. 4 touchdown catches in the last 6 games by Ladd McConkey, obviously one of Justin Herbert's main reliable targets. And we saw how good Ladd was at Georgia, a few years ago, and continuing to have good success here in Los Angeles in 2025, and I assume beyond. All right, here we go. Steelers with the kick. And a good return here. And down to about the 33. Nice return there by Williams. Hayward with the coverage. First down and 10 at the Charger 33 after that 25-yard return by Williams. 12-3 Chargers. And let's see what Justin Herbert's got dialed up, especially with the lead. I assume that they're going to pound the rock with Vidal, and then eventually that'll open up a little bit more of the passing game. But Fisk with a false start there on the offensive line. Self-inflicted wounds. You can't have that. First down and 15 at the Charger 28. And the Steelers defense is going to have to do something. Same thing with the special teams as well, if they have any chance of coming back and winning this game or being competitive. All right, show me Herbert. Let's see what the former Oregon Duck quarterback has got in store for us here in the second half. 4 wide receiver set. Shotgun set. Good burst off the edge. Might have been offsides. And deflected back into Herbert's hands. And there's a flag on the play. That got to be offsides on the defense by Highsmith. So the false start, that brought him back 5. You get that 5 yards right back on defensive offsides. Penalties on both teams to come out to start the third quarter. Not ideal for either team. And good awareness by Herbert to get that ball that was batted in the air right back to him. We've seen Marcus Mariota have that happen to him in years past. Handoff. And Vidal there with a 1-yard run. 2nd down and 9 at the Charger 34. Harrison and Benton there in the coverage. And it just kind of feels like with the Steeler team, they used to have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, and now they only have Warren. It's not enough. They need someone that's got better running back. And it's not like Warren is terrible, but he's just more of an RB2. They need someone that's more of a bell cow for Warren to be the change of pace back. And, that part of their game is, obviously weak. And obviously the offensive line isn't really doing that good of a job for them either. And Herbert has another pass batted down. TJ Watt doing TJ Watt things, trying to, keep that defense, honest there. 3rd down and 9 at the Charger 34. PJ in the building. What's good, brother? How are you? Hope you had a good weekend. We'll be doing the Eagles and the Packers tomorrow, which should, regardless if you like either of those teams or hate both of those teams, it should be fun, a competitive matchup between the Packers and the Eagles. Looking forward to that. We'll be scooping up a Blazer stream in the middle of the week. Blazers have been playing some pretty good ball, even though they lost to the Heat. Nice catch there. 1st down. Keenan Allen. Move the chains. And then obviously the Ducks will play on Friday. And so, again, a little bit of football, a little bit of basketball, a little bit of college football and NFL. And we got some amazing games next weekend. Must-see games, 4 of them on the slate. And I'll definitely be very busy watching those. Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough on the road. Our schedule is not playing us any favors. And obviously with no Bucky Irving and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, it's finally catching up to us a little bit. And, our run defense was terrible today. Watched that entire game. Shout out to Vrabel and Drake May, for getting the job done. But that was a game that we could have won if we had better defense. But defense was just not good, and normally the Bucs defense is good. And that was really the difference. You give up 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground to a running back, you're going to lose more times than not. So it's going to be hard to win on the road against Buffalo, but if we can get the Buffalo team similar to how they played the Dolphins, we might be able to get that victory, but they will be angry. And pass and complete. Short middle to Quentin Johnston there. Pierre with the coverage. 3rd down and 10 at the Charger 47, but even though that we lost, today, we're still the best team in the NFC South, right? The Panthers are, second best, but they couldn't even beat the Saints today. So again, it's not like any other team in the South is making the playoffs, right? The Saints are bad. The Falcons are bad. Panthers are much improved, but they're still not good enough to make the playoffs. So we just have to hope that we can get hot and healthy at the right time at the end of the year so we can match up against the Eagles, the Packers, the Lions, the Rams, and the Seahawks. And as long as our, guys are there, I like our chances. And a big hit and a sack lunch there. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a Steeler sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And again, the Steeler defense coming up big. 4th down and 15 at the Charger 42. And essentially, these defenses are doing the same thing on 3rd down. Bring in the house, bring in the blitz. And on 3rd down, you're not really getting a whole lot from Rodgers or Herbert. And again, look at that speed by the Steelers. Unbelievable. And Scott with the punt. J.K. Scott. Fair catch by Keyshawn Williams. We bobbled it. Wow, that could have been disastrous. And it's first down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 8. And again, like Rodgers, he needs a very dominant running back. If he had like a guy like Jonathan Taylor, at running back for Pittsburgh, then obviously that would be taking quite a bit off of his shoulders. But again, when you only have really Jaylen Warren, that's just not good enough. Offensive line for Pittsburgh is always underwhelmed. Now you only have really one running back instead of two, with no Najee Harris there, even though he's on the Chargers, but he's hurt. You got Freiermuth and you got a DK Metcalf, but the problem is if Rodgers doesn't have enough time, to be able to go through his progressions, he can't get the ball to guys like Freiermuth and DK for the big play as often as they would like. Now, the Steeler defense is still going to fly around, and obviously that was evident on that sack lunch by Highsmith, but obviously the Chargers are more well-balanced. They have a younger quarterback that is, a little bit more accurate at this stage of his career. And we'll see how this plays out and see if the Chargers defense and the Pittsburgh defense will continue to dominate. Yeah, I thought the play calling was not very good. And I feel like instead of going to Rachaad White, they should have went with Tucker a little bit more. He was getting a little bit more chunk plays. Obviously, you got Tez and Shepard and you got Ibuka, but it's not like Mike Evans and Godwin, to kind of bail out. Kate Otten, was pretty productive, but again, the defense overall, they didn't play well. Too many big chunk plays, too many big throws, for Drake May, too many big runs, from Travion Henderson. And again, if we were able to, get more pressure, on Drake May and, stop the run, we would have been able to squeak out that victory. I mean, that was not a very, well-balanced, game plan on offense or defense. And again, no Jamel Dean, that fucking hurt. Morrison, the rookie from Notre Dame, got fucking torched left and right, and again, he's a rookie, so I get it, and, Diggs with the little toe tap. Really what killed the Buccaneers is that they scored right before fucking halftime with Diggs, and then they fucking scored on the first possession in the third quarter. And when that fucking shit happens, 90% of the time you lose, especially if it ends up extending the lead, from maybe manageable to like, oh fuck, like you really got to pray that, something good happens. And anytime the team scores on you right before half, a couple seconds left, they get the ball and score on that first drive in the third quarter. It's a fucking nightmare. And I already knew it was going to be an uphill battle. We had some, garbage time yards and touchdowns late, but it definitely was not one of our best performances. And again, we've lost to the Eagles, we've lost to the Lions, and we've lost to the Patriots. All three are playoff teams. And again, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. We just got to hope that we can get healthy at the right time. And, even just simply having Bucky Irving would have won the game for us, and again, not having him available has been tough. What a hurdle by Jaylen Warren. That was beautiful. What a hurdle there. 14-yard run. Derwin James in coverage. Yeah, and I didn't like them going for two either. Just take the extra point, and then again, if you end up scoring, based on where the score was, it would have been like 3 after that. So it's like, I don't like going for 2 unless it's like really in the fourth quarter and whatnot. But there's just a lot of things that, didn't really, go into our favor. And then the offensive line didn't really do the greatest job either, especially on third down when they were bringing the heat. We weren't able to even get Baker to throw the ball there at the very end, But we still have a good football team, but you're starting to see, everyone is open for L's, whether it's the Eagles, the Lions, they've had some rough moments, the Buccaneers, and then obviously the Rams and Seahawks are playing some great ball. It's a very competitive NFC, but no one is going to take the division from us. So we're going to end up winning it 5 years in a row. Now it's just about getting on the same level as all the other top dogs, which are going to be the Eagles, the Buccaneers, Packers, Bears, obviously with how they're doing right now, Lions, and then obviously you got the Niners, the Rams, and the Seahawks. So, and obviously you would assume a few of these teams will fall back, a little bit, but at least for the time being, the Niners and the Bears are still kind of in the conversation at what we're, doing at the moment. So, yeah, Bucky is a spark plug because not only does he run through the gaps and up the middle, you can go screen passes, little hitch routes, crossing routes. And again, Bucky is like a Jahmyr Gibbs. And imagine if the Lions didn't have Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, you got David Montgomery, but we don't have David Montgomery. I mean, Rachaad White at times can play pretty good, and at times Tucker can play pretty good, but they're not Montgomery good, And again, we need Bucky more. I mean, we really do miss Godwin and Evans. There's no doubt about that, but we have enough talent at receiver from Ibuka and Tez and, a few of the others like Shepard and Cade Otton that we can kind of hang around. Obviously it would be nice to have Evans and Godwin, out there to get first downs, touchdowns, and obviously even being a decoy out there for guys like Ibuka. But Bucky has been the biggest loss. And again, if we had Bucky healthy, maybe we only have one loss instead of three right now. Or maybe two losses. But again, we're definitely going to be looking for some type of payback on the Eagles and Lions that beat us. And, every loss that we've had hasn't been really Buccaneer football. So Warren with a 3-yard run there to that left side, 3rd down and 2 at the Pittsburgh 30. Yeah, well, they've been talking about Bucky. He's got injuries with the shoulder and the knee. So, I mean, hopefully it's sooner than later, but we don't really know. And we don't want to bring him back too soon because then if he re-aggravates the injury and then we don't have him in the playoffs or at the end of the year, we're fucked. Because again, if we don't got Bucky Irving, we might not be able to beat, anybody. We might be able to compete for a while, but at some point, we could get exposed. So, I mean, it's like I like the 3-headed horse with Bucky and Rachaad, as the two, and then Tucker is kind of the Mike Allstott, like the fullback guy that can come in there and give you the power running game. But when you only have 2 out of the 3, it definitely takes the dynamic away. And our offensive coordinator isn't the greatest either. So, and I can say that for both of my football teams, for the Ducks and the Buccaneers. Get rid of both offensive coordinators for both. Yeah, no Jamel Dean today. No Bucky, no Godwin, no Evans. Not ideal. 12-3 Chargers, 9:28 left. Nice to see Pittsburgh starting to move the ball slightly. Trips left, shotgun set for Rodgers. And the Chargers and Steelers love blitzing on 3rd down. I mean, these two teams mirror each other pretty well. Except Herbert, obviously better quarterback than Rodgers at this point. And it's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for another sack lunch on 3rd down. Yum, 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 yum. But I'll tell you what, if Bucky was able to play next week at Buffalo, that could be the difference between us winning and losing that game. We definitely miss him. And, he is the spark plug. He is the Jahmyr Gibbs of the Buccaneers. And we haven't really been the same since he's been hurt, which stinks for us. But hopefully he'll be ready to go sooner than later. Three sacks apiece. And again, these teams mirror each other very, very well. And I think all those sacks have been on 3rd down as well. Steelers with the punt. Ooh, nice tackle. And a late flag. And then you got the Patriots and the Broncos and the Colts kind of at the top. Bills and Chiefs, not really what we're used to, based on their win-loss record and how they've been playing lately. And then you got teams like the Chargers and Steelers, just trying to hang on to where they're at position-wise. Ravens are kind of on the up and up now with Lamar being healthy. So, again, it'll be very, very interesting to see kind of how things play out, for the AFC and the NFC, but you kind of have the writing on the wall, so to speak. We're about halfway through the season and we kind of understand who's going to be in the playoffs and, who's not. But these two teams right here could both miss the playoffs and they both could make the playoffs, or one of these teams could make the playoffs and the other one might barely miss. But, again, the Chargers are in an okay position right now, but again, Denver, even though they've been winning ugly with Bo Nix at times, they're still winning. And obviously, you want to keep pace with them and obviously try to pull away from Kansas City. But, if there's a team that's going to get 3 teams in the playoffs, it'll probably be the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs rather than, the Seahawks, Rams, and Niners. I think Niners probably with all those injuries you would assume, would fall back. But, even though they ended up getting obliterated today, they're still kind of hanging around, based on their win-loss record, especially if you're 5-3, 6-3, 5-4, a lot can happen to your team, in these last, 6, 7, 8 weeks, on how the rest of the season is going to play out. So, but again, if we can get a Miami Dolphin kind of effort, with the Buccaneers on the road against the Bills next week, and again, I know we're going to be super focused. And I think sometimes also, when you play at home, sometimes you're too comfortable. Like you get too comfortable with the crowd and, the cannons firing. Sometimes you do need to go on the road and you have everyone boo you, and it kind of brings the team together a little bit, and some teams fail and they fold, but teams like the Bucs, most of the time they thrive off that. And again, maybe just going on the road is what the doctor ordered, after maybe being a little too comfortable this weekend against New England. And one crazy thing, when I watched that game for the very first time, in maybe 10 years, right? I felt like it was kind of an away game. Like there was a lot of New England fans there at the game. They were chanting MVP over the Buccaneer fans. New England fans were for Drake May. I have never heard an opposing fan base louder than the Buccaneer fan base at a game before, ever. Right. And again, the MVP chants, lots of New England fans, obviously a lot of Brady fans that were New England Buccaneers and also New England fans in general, but again, I don't think I've ever heard an away crowd with that much passion and energy. And that was part of their, reason of, I think, getting the dub also. It was kind of weird to hear fans cheer for the opposing team, at Raymond James. Nice pass there to Ladd McConkey. First down, Chargers. Yeah, they should have won that game. Rico Dowdle ended up scoring first, and they were up 7-0, so I was a little disappointed that they didn't win that game, just for them, because they've been kind of the bottom feeder, little brother at the bottom of the division, and, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they ended up getting second place, after all of the bad seasons they've had with Bryce Young and even before him. First down and 10, hand off to Vidal, and he's just slicing and dicing them up the middle. They have no answer for him. 12-yard gain, first down, Bolts. Move the chains. But hopefully I don't hear an away crowd like that the rest of the season. It was alarming. I just was kind of in shock. We never hear MVP chants, for someone other than Baker, in our stadium. And Drake May obviously is playing great and whatnot, but I was just really shocked on how many New England fans made that trip. All right, Porter walking off. Throws his helmet there into the turf. 12-3 Chargers with 7:40 and counting. Plenty of options. Keenan Allen, Gadsden, McConkey, Quentin Johnston. Handoff up the middle. Vidal is awesome up the middle. Steelers D-line and linebacking core have no answers for that. Yeah, but out of all the games that you've ever watched, have you ever, I mean, did you watch the whole game, like beginning to end? I've never heard a crowd that loud for an opposing team, in the game ever. Like, ever. Like, that was the first time I've ever heard a crowd that loud for an opposing team. It's just a weird thing to hear. I mean, you can have money and everything, but I've never heard a crowd that, passionate, making that much noise. Third down and 4, shotgun set. Herbert, and batted down by the Pittsburgh defense, Cameron Hayward. And now it's 4th down and 4 at the Pittsburgh 41. Well, obviously, a lot of them have hopped back onto the bandwagon, obviously after, a few bad seasons. And then obviously now that they're good and they're back, and whatnot. But, there's some that probably gave up, and moved on and whatnot. But obviously when you can have a record as good as what they have this year, and you've seen, the improvements, with Drake May, and obviously Christian Gonzalez being healthy definitely helps. And, they've definitely improved their roster quite a bit as well. 59-yard field goal is up and good. Wow. Dicka the kicker. Field goal is good. 15-3 Chargers. $15-3 Chargers. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. 15-3 Charger lead. $59-yard field goal is good for Cameron Dicker. Dicker the kicker. 15-3 lead here for the Chargers. Kind of funny how a lot of the quote-unquote experts thought that Pittsburgh was going to win this game. And just because Alt and Slater are out on the O-line doesn't mean that the Chargers are just going to roll over. They are the better football team top to bottom than Pittsburgh. And, we'll see if Rodgers can finally connect with like Freiermuth or DK. But again, you can have weapons that can get you into the end zone. But if the offensive line is shitty, then you're not going to really be able to do anything. You don't really have a great running back room either. Like Jalen Warren is pretty good, but he's more of an RB2, and it's stuff where they start abandoning the run. You can't really rely on a 40-plus-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who has played good at times, but at other times, you're going to get performances like this where, the O-line stinks. Running game isn't really the greatest. Defense can make great plays for you on third down, but eventually, if Rodgers can't get in the end zone, then Warren has to, and then the defense has to, and that's a big ask, at this point in the game. Can you get a pick six or a fumble for a touchdown? You might need something like that out of TJ Watt or any of the Steeler players if they're going to have any chance of coming back in this game. You're going to need a big play like that. And if you don't get it, then the Chargers are going to keep, pounding the rock, throwing it through the air, blitzing on third down. And again, the Chargers might end up with 30 points or close to 30 before this one is over, if they don't make those adjustments. Yeah. Appreciate that. I went through the, NFL shop for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I went through maybe 100, different hats, and I thought this was the most stylish, one, for the 2025 season to represent on the channel. There's a lot of kind of, some ugly hats, some that are average, but, I'm pretty picky. I got a Buccaneer hard hat. I got a Buccaneer snow hat, a little beanie with a little ball on the top, but sometimes it gets a little too hot for that, and you got to have a good NFL hat to rep your team. 2nd down and 10. Shotgun set, and all they can do is little check downs, screen passes, little check downs, and then Jaylen Warren, moving his feet 100 miles an hour, but only getting 2 yards. 3rd down and 8 at the Pittsburgh 20. Oh, nice. I got some old creamsicle vintage Buccaneer hats, from like the 70s and the 80s and whatnot. But I don't really have a whole lot of things to wear, with that type of, outfit or whatnot. I got a throwback Doug Williams creamsicle sewn jersey. That's really the only thing that I have. And I didn't have the extra money to purchase the white throwback that they came out with this year, which is a little bit cleaner of a look than the orange jersey, the creamsicle. I like the white with the orange. Obviously, the white jersey always kind of pops a little bit more, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if Belichick's impact, recruiting is going to get the Tar Heels to being a good football team. He's a name, but he's a hard ass, and a lot of these college kids, may not be ready for his style of coaching, going from the NFL, and that expectation, of having to do everything his way, and again, I would assume a lot of kids will transfer because they don't want to deal with that. But we'll see if Bill can turn that, organization into a top 25 team sooner than later. There's 100 Division I, so to get to the top 25, it's going to take some work. And Rodgers throws deep, incomplete. DK Metcalf, the intended receiver. And another 3 and out for Pittsburgh. Again, Rodgers, not the greatest quarterback. Offensive line, always for Pittsburgh, kind of stinks. Underwhelms most of the time. Now, they usually have a pretty good defense, most of the time with TJ Watt and whatnot, and a pretty reliable kicker in Boswell. But, it shows you, the offensive line and the defensive line, and the defense is more important than quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. You can have some notable names at those positions, but if your O-line and D-line fucking stink, you're not going to be able to get the ball, to those key weapons. And then you end up being down 15-3 in the 3rd quarter on the road. Steelers don't really look like a 5-3 team. They look like a 3-5 team, and again, there's a lot of things that need to happen. You got to be able to find a quarterback after Rodgers. You got to beef up that running back room, retool that whole offensive line. I'm not really sure if DK is really a good fit with that team either. I like Freiermuth, but again, it's like you don't got a whole lot to work, on that offense. It's kind of shitty if we're actually being honest. Now, the defense, they got some ballers over there, not just TJ Watt, but, it's definitely kind of one-sided, where one side of the ball, is a little bit better. But even with that being said, they're not good enough defensively, the Steelers, to overtake a game every single week, and they can win with their defense alone. They're not that good, They do have some players, but, it is 11 on 11. So, Chief in the building. What's good, brother? How are you? We got an amazing week 11 next week. And again, we got the Eagles and the Packers tomorrow. So I'll be live streaming that. But again, we got 4 must-see TV games next week. Buccaneers and Bills. That's going to be fucking must-see TV, right? That's going to be awesome. Seahawks and Rams for the divisional lead. Both are 7-2. Amazing. Chiefs and Broncos. Let's go. Trap game for the Broncos. And this could be a huge springboard win for Kansas City if they can get that dub. And then on Sunday Night Football, we'll be doing next week at this time, Lions and Eagles. And those are the only 2 teams the Buccaneers have lost to in the NFC this year. We lost today to the Patriots and Drake May. So amazing 4-game set. I'm going to be watching every single game from beginning to end. Can't wait for that schedule. That might be the best, week that we've had all year. 4 high quality games. Like, even if you don't play fantasy and even if you're not, a fan of any of those teams, you can recognize that those are good matchups, going into next week, right? Buccaneers, right? 6-3, Bills 6-3. Both are really hungry to be able to get the job done. Seahawks and Rams, both 7-2. Broncos and Chiefs 8-2 versus 5-4, but the Chiefs are better than the 5-4 record. And then the Eagles 6-2, and then Lions 6-3. But again, I assume the Eagles will win tomorrow to improve their record, but we'll wait and find out. We'll see if Green Bay can play up to the competition. So, yeah, Warren is a good RB2, but they're not the same without not having Najee anymore. You know what I mean? It just feels like at times where they're running the ball with Warren, they need a back that's a little bit bigger and more physical, And again, it's like when you're running, an RB2, as the bell cow, it can work sometimes, but at one point, the guy's going to fatigue out, and, sometimes you don't have the right player in at the right time, and they have a lot of issues, on that offense. Loss of 2 there by Vidal, who's actually been very good up the middle. 3rd down and 6 at the Charger 40. Yeah, I agree. Especially if the Chargers keep winning, if you want to be that 3rd team, obviously we got the Bills and the Patriots, you got that. And you got the Ravens and possibly the Steelers battling, right? The Colts, obviously in the South. And then you got 3 teams, and you're going to have probably the worst record out of a team that could, get in. And there goes Herbert. Run, baby, run. Sliding. First down. Chargers bolt up. Go Ducks. Nice job by Herbert with that beautiful run. But again, yeah, I do agree that is going to be probably the biggest game of the year for you guys. And I still think that you guys can make the playoffs, but it definitely shows you, the Bills and the Chiefs are nowhere near as good as they were in the previous 4 or 5 years. They're still good enough to make the playoffs, but, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Colts, they're the real deal. Jonathan Taylor's the best running back in the league. Bo Nix has got the number 1 defense, even though the offense sputters at times, right? And, when you have teams like that, and Drake May is the truth, Vrabel and McDaniels are doing a good job. So, it is possible that, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Colts, one of those teams, could end up beating the Chiefs or the Bills or both. It could happen. And again, I've been watching these teams pretty closely, and, some, have a little bit easier schedules than others. But if you've actually taken the time to watch those teams, they're legit this year. They are the real deal, especially after seeing the Chiefs struggle and then the Bills losing to the fucking Dolphins today. Anybody can beat anyone on any given Sunday, Monday, Thursday, but you got to give credit where credit's due. It's not always going to be the same teams at the top. Sometimes other teams are going to rise, and, now it's no longer, the Chiefs and Bills are so much better than everyone else. Like, everyone is caught up now, and they're almost on the same even playing field. Same thing with the Eagles. Everyone is caught up. They're still really good, but it's not like the Seahawks, the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Lions are intimidated. Again, we know they're good, and, they won the Super Bowl and whatnot, but again, it feels like they're beatable, even though they're very, very good. Herbert, pass short left there to Fisk. 6-yard gain, Pierre with the coverage. 2nd down and 14 at the Pittsburgh 49. Right. Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs could all be wild card teams or miss the play. It's just crazy. Like these teams that we have here on the screen, right? They both could make the playoffs, or they both could miss the playoffs. It's like realistically. Highsmith with the sack lunch, but I don't know if he got the face mask there. Let's look. Or got him inside the shoulder pad, not the face mask. Trying to get him with like a horse collar type of situation there. Yeah, and after playing the Patriots, the last thing I want to see is, a team that's angry, playing in their, house in Buffalo. But I think that it'll be good for the Buccaneers, maybe focus-wise. But it shows you, our losses to the Eagles, the Lions, and the Patriots. We need Bucky Irving. We need Mike Evans. We need Chris Godwin. It's like, you can only, how many teams can actually win with their RB1 and their two top receivers out? Barely anybody could win. Let's be real. It's hard to win, when you got those kind of key pieces, Hall of Fame player in Evans, Hall of Fame player in Godwin. Bucky is like a Jahmyr Gibbs, and when you don't have that to your disposal, you can hope that Tez Johnson and others will step up, but, sometimes it's just not enough. And Dicker kick is up 55 yards and wide left. No good. Doink. And it hits the field goal post. Wow. You've had Dicker, the kicker, miss one, and you've had Boswell miss one as well. Yeah, I think the experience factor is going to be the main thing that will benefit the Bills and the Chiefs. That's one thing that they will be able to rely on, but we've also seen, the offense and the defense not look very good, at times for Buffalo. Same thing with the Chiefs, but again, big game, and a big opportunity to be able to, beat a Bronco team. We know their defense is great, but obviously the offense, has been sputtering at times. So, if the Chief defense plays well, that'll be the difference if you end up winning that game against Denver or not. Because if your defense doesn't show up, there's no chance that you're going to win. You have to make it difficult on Bo Nix. And if you're able to make it difficult for him, as good as Denver's D is, that could definitely be something to look forward to for sure. Yeah, Smith, Tyke. He had a big hit, on the sideline where people thought it was going to be like some kind of, flag on Drake May where he blasted him where he was still in bounds. And Tyke Smith is a stud. Yeah. But again, we weren't good, on the run game, for defense. We gave up way too many yards on the ground, and again, too many big chunk plays through the air, that normally we don't. And again, not having Jamel Dean in the game and having Morrison, the rookie, he got fucking torched and picked on. And again, it was a combination of things. Offense could have been better. Defense could have been a little bit better. Play calling obviously could have been a little bit better. But, anytime you give up 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground to a running back, Travion Henderson, that was it. That was the difference. And if we could have, stopped that, like we normally do. And it's like we got Vita Vea, we got Levante David, we got Antoine Winfield Jr., but other than those 3 guys, everyone else is kind of a wild card week in and week out. Are they going to play good or are they going to not? It's like if you only have 3 guys that you really can count on week in and week out, out of 11, will Zion McCollum play good or will he get burnt? You don't really know, and again, it's like I do like Zion and some of these other guys, but it also shows you we need another pass rusher up front. Our D-line is not good enough. It's like you got Vita Vea, but you need like another Simeon Rice type of player to play with Vita Vea, like someone that we can actually rely on. 15-3 Chargers. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed the like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it. Bang. What do you think is the main problem with the Chiefs when you're watching them play this year? Like, obviously I've seen quite a few of their games. Nice run. There you go. Jalen Warren looking like Vidal. 11-yard run right there. First down, Steelers. Move the chains. Bolden with the coverage there. But obviously the offense doesn't look as fluid with Mahomes. Offensive line doesn't look as good. And then obviously the defense has been suspect this year as well. Shotgun set. And obviously the Mahomes-Kelsey combo hasn't been as dominant this year as it has been in past years. So you got Mahomes, you got Kelsey, you got Andy Reid, you got Spags, and you got Chris Jones. But it definitely has been the toughest year out of all those guys playing together than they've ever seen. No, Dean didn't play at all. He was out for the whole game. Yeah, Jamel Dean did not play at all. Or maybe he was in the game early. Yeah, actually, you know what? I think he was in the game and then he got injured. I think you're right. I know he wasn't in there late, but I think he was. Very early on, though. Because I do remember he did have a few tackles earlier on, but then there was no sign of him after. So I don't know exactly when, but again, I remember he had a few tackles before and then. But it was like, it had to have been super, super early because obviously they had Morrison out there and he got fucking torched. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think it was very early, though. We didn't have too much access to him. End of the third quarter, 2nd down and 1 at the Charger 35. Yeah, and again, when you don't have your secondary fully healthy, or your key positions like Godwin, Evans, and Bucky Irving, it definitely makes it tough. And, we'll see what we have, obviously, moving forward against Buffalo on the road, which will not be easy. Second down and 1. And a handoff up the middle. Jalen Warren, 3-yard gain. First down, Steelers. Crazy, the Steelers only have 3 points. Minnie with a tour. Appreciate you. Stacks. Rax with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Appreciate you. Minnie with a tour. She says, I need 27 yards and a tutty. Appreciate you, Minnie. Rogers, little check down. And speaking of checkdowns, Baker Mayfield had way too many checkdowns today, and obviously I don't want him throwing into double or triple coverage, but a lot of too many safe attempts, and again, at some point you're gonna, I think Baker didn't really use his legs too much either, and I was actually hoping that he would run the football and help us out on that end, but you got to give the Patriot defense credit. They played well today. Yeah, I hope we can beat the Bills too, man. they're going to be really angry after that Dolphin loss, and they're at home. But again, it might be a good thing for us, us against, everyone, us against the world. Buffalo fans are very passionate. So, and a short run up the middle, 4 yards there by Jalen Warren. 2nd down and 6 at the Charger 10. And we actually might get a Steeler touchdown before this game is over. And again, we want this game to kind of go back and forth, and hopefully we get at least one team in the 20s. And again, I was thinking the maximum amount of points that Pittsburgh could get would be 17 with 2 touchdowns here in the second half. But we are in the 4th quarter, and let's see what Rodgers has cooking here. 2nd down and 6. Rodgers under center, man in motion, pass and complete. And just throws it into the turf. And again, on 3rd down, every team, Chargers and Pittsburgh, have been blitzing ferociously on 3rd down and been able to get sack lunches on Rodgers and Herbert pretty much at will. So again, I would not be shocked here if the Chargers bring the house with Khalil Mack here to try to force a turnover or a bad play. Yeah, and after watching that game, Chief, Drake May is nice. Lots of confidence. McDaniels is calling plays that suit him well. They are a very well-balanced team. Christian Gonzalez is a top 2 corner in the NFL, and obviously nice to see him healthy. They got a lot, going for them, New England. Rodgers, and complete. Gainwell was the intended running back there as he gets blasted. 4th down and 6. Yeah, Rodgers. But the Steelers' offensive line is always bad. Like, even when they were good, their offensive line wasn't really the greatest. And again, if you don't got a good O-line, you're not doing anything in football. O-line and D-line are so important. And Rodgers pass incomplete to DK Metcalf, and a wasted opportunity there. And now it's 1st down and 10 for the Chargers. Shitty throw. What are you doing? You're throwing into double coverage? That's a terrible throw. And again, DK is one of those guys that's not going to be mature and keep his mouth quiet. He's going to be sometimes loud and a distraction. Not a very good fit between Rodgers and Metcalf. I imagine Rodgers is happy that he's got a big-bodied receiver like DK, but I don't think it's a very good fit for either of those 2 players. Rodgers should be retired, and again, they have a 5-3 record somehow. And DK I still think is a pretty good receiver. But I think that DK and AJ Brown for big-bodied receivers, are starting to realize, again, if you don't get the ball, your attitude actually means something and whatnot. And, again, in their minds, they probably still think, DK and AJ Brown, they think that they're both top 5 receivers in this league. But, if you don't get the ball, enough, in the right spot, kind of hard to be able to prove that. So. Yeah. Well, no one really has patience like that. And again, you have to have a pretty good offensive line at that point. And back then, their offensive line was much better than it is now, where Le'Veon could just kind of wait, and sit there and wait for the hole to open up. And then he can decide where he wants to go with his vision and speed. At that point, you don't really see patient running backs that much anymore. But also, you don't really see a lot of amazing offensive lines anymore with besides, maybe the Colts with Jonathan Taylor this year and the Eagles with Saquon last year, and again, Saquon was the best running back last year. Offensive line was a big part of that. And then the Colts this year, offensive line playing well, and Jonathan Taylor putting up MVP type of numbers for the Colts. So. But it kind of shows you, you can have a quarterback that some people might have, given up on. You get the right head coach. You got the right offensive coordinator, and again, it's not like they have, a crazy amount of weapons, but obviously bringing in Diggs was huge. We know that, He usually has kind of a bad relationship when he's on the way out, but obviously he made Josh Allen a name, obviously helped Kirk Cousins and, the Vikings, in that time period as well, helped Josh Allen, break out, and obviously has been able to be, one of the key pieces, for Drake May. But they have a very balanced offense, and they never abandon the run. They run, and then eventually that opens up the big passes. And May has, been very accurate this year. And, if it wasn't for Josh McDaniels and Vrabel and some of the supporting cast, they wouldn't be as good as they are this year. But, it's like a kind of a perfect storm of everything coming together. And it's always nice to be able to see a quarterback pan out rather than, another guy that just fucking sucks, that we had all this potential, in college, but, you don't have the right, coach or coordinator, supporting cast. And, it's nice to be able to see him play well. I just wish it wasn't against us, here this weekend. 4-yard run there by Vidal. 2nd down and 6 at the Charger 29. But it kind of makes you wonder, if they still had the same old coach, where would the Patriots be? Would they have their record flip-flopped, numbers-wise? But again, I know a lot of people are kind of questioning the Diggs, going to the Patriots. Like, why would he go there? But now, as you see the Patriots in 2025, again, Diggs can find a way. He may not be a top 5 receiver anymore, or top 10, but still a guy that you would want on the team for a guy like Drake May, for sure. 2nd down and 6. Herbert passing complete to Keenan Allen. 3rd down and 6 at the Charger 29. Stormbum in the building. What's good? Frozen hands in the snow. Drake May. 15-3 Chargers. 3rd down and 6. Shotgun set for Herbert. 4 wide receiver set. Floater. Caught. McConkey. See ya. Touchdown. Nope. Puts on the brakes. The 20. Oh, they caught him. I thought he was gone. Wow. 58-yard pass from Herbert to Ladd McConkey. Wow. And again, Herbert doing Herbert things, but once Ladd McConkey gets his hands on the football, those yak yards, 42 yak yards, unbelievable. He's like, let me grab this little 16-yard grab and let me go 42, and I thought he was gone, but Steelers ended up catching up to him, and the corner had a chance, but Ladd ripped it away, and again, just like he was at Georgia, he is a gamer. He's a PTPer, primetime player. Wow. Vidal runs up, bouncing it to the outside, all the way down to the 2. And Minnie is looking for a tutty from Vidal, and you might get it here. 1st down and goal at the Pittsburgh 2. Give him the ball back again. Yeah, the battle of the bads between the Jets and the Browns. Minnie's like, please, so I can go to sleep with some extra fantasy points. I mean, if they go right up the middle, they don't have an answer for that. I mean, Vidal's been torching them. And Vidal, there it is. Minnie, touchdown, Vidal. 2-yard touchdown run. There you go. You got it. Kimani Vidal. Touchdown, Chargers. Easy breezy cover girl. 21-3 Chargers. There you go. Especially when he went down to the 2. I mean, he's kind of their, bell cow. And he's been torching the Steelers, D-line and front seven all day for big 5, 10, 15-yard gains. And extra point is up by Dicker, the kicker, and it's up and good. And I don't know what I'm more surprised of right now, that the Steelers only have 3 or the offense is that bad for Pittsburgh. Yeah, honestly, this game has already been over for, 2 quarters, but yeah, and sometimes that happens. Davis Mills comes in there and plays a good game against the Jags, a divisional opponent. And sometimes when you play a divisional opponent and you have injuries and people pick the other team, sometimes the backup will say otherwise. Just like the Dolphins and Tua, finding a way to beat the Bills. When you see a lot of these, upsets, a lot of them are in the division themselves. Like the Panthers should have beat the Saints. They scored first, but they couldn't get the job done, So, yeah, you're going to see some L's that are AFC, NFC, or outside of your own division. But if you pay attention, a lot of the losses that are like, what? Usually are within the division. And if you play a team twice, you know them better than a team that plays them once every 40 years or every once in a while, and 22-3 Chargers. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was thinking that the Steelers would make it at least interesting and get to at least 17, but I had the Chargers winning, but it was weird. A lot of the quote-unquote NFL experts all had the Steelers winning. I'm like, in what planet? Like, even if the Steelers were at home, I don't think they would win this game. But, again, everyone has their own idea. Many with a tour. I got you. Stacks. Rex. What a little cactus jack. Bang, bang. Time for the Vidal photo. Appreciate you, Minnie. Two-yard touchdown run by Kamani Vidal. 22-3 bolts. Yeah, I actually think the Ravens will. Again, as long as Lamar doesn't get hurt, I don't really trust the Ravens defense. And obviously we know Lamar is amazing, and again, we'll see how that all plays out. But again, the Ravens not as strong as they used to be. Bills and Chiefs not as strong as they used to be. Broncos, Patriots, and Colts much better than they normally are. It's a very weird year, especially in the AFC. And then obviously the NFC, Eagles, Buccaneers, Lions, Packers, Rams, Niners. That's the cream of the crop. So, and then obviously you got teams that are on the outside looking in, like the Bears and the Niners. And again, the Chicago Bears being 6-3 was not on my bingo card. 5-yard pass by Aaron Rodgers to DK Metcalf. If you start giving them points for every first down, they might be able to catch up here in the fourth quarter. 2nd down and 5 at the Pittsburgh 42. And Rodgers towards the sideline, incomplete. But honestly, even if they ended up having a better quarterback, for the Steelers, if your offensive line stinks, you're not going to have time, to go through your progressions. So it's like, Freiermuth and DK and Warren and the others. What do you really expect if your O-line can't block? It's not going to open up any holes in the running game. And, you're not going to give your quarterback enough time to get you the fucking ball. And defensive holding here on Hart. Cam Hart, the guilty party here, the DB for the Chargers. 5-yard penalty, first down and 10 at the Pittsburgh 47. Yeah, it definitely makes it interesting, and that's why the NFL is, arguably one of the best, right? It's like we got the NBA and the NHL and the MLB, and usually it's pretty top heavy, just like in any sport, but intercepted off the tip. Woo! Now when he's going, he's at the 40. Wow, and now it's definitely over. I mean, it was already over like 2 quarters ago, but now it's really over. I mean, when it rains, it pours, and when you have a deflection and then it goes into the hands of a Charger, 2 turnovers for Pittsburgh, 0 for the Chargers, and Rodgers was going to Austin, but Jackson says, not today. Yeah, you guys need a new offensive coordinator. You've stuck with him way too long. Great tip drill there, and that's on Austin. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, week in and week out, it depends on if you're at home or on the road, and again, watching this Steeler team, how could they beat the Colts? But again, the Colts ended up having 6 turnovers. That's how you beat them, right? Again, the Colts only had 4 turnovers in 8 games, okay? 4 in 8 games. When they played Pittsburgh, they had 6, and they only lost by 7. So again, turnovers are a big reason why you win and lose games, and that's the reason why the Steelers ended up beating the Colts, which they had really no business in beating. But fuck, if you end up having 6 turnovers, I mean, you're going to lose. You're not going to win that game. And it's actually surprising that they only lost by 7. They should have fucking lost by 20, but each week, you have an idea, of what a team is and their identity, but things can change really fast week in and week out. That's what makes the NFL so exciting. One week you can look great, Pittsburgh against the Colts, or you could look like dog shit here today on the road. And again, if Pittsburgh was at home, they would have more than 3. You would assume, Rodgers and the crowd, that they probably would be sitting at least 10 to 13 points if they were at home. Obviously home field does, make a difference. Andy is a little too loyal sometimes. I agree with that. I mean, they got Freiermuth and DK. The offensive line just stinks. Again, if you only have like a second to be able to go through your progressions, it doesn't matter. Hell, you could end up having, Lamar back there, Josh Allen, whoever, for Pittsburgh, and you still would not be able to do a whole lot, if the offensive line is that bad. And we got an offensive hold here on the Chargers. And a lot of times, if your offensive line is good, you can, throw to random players and make them look better than they are. It's just a matter of, do you have time and do you have actually a good offensive coordinator? And the Steelers, definitely need a better play caller, and their offensive line really hasn't been good for quite some time. 3rd down and 16. And I was hoping for a more competitive matchup. I mean, at least it's a little bit better than the 10-7 Broncos Raiders games. But after having some exciting games at the beginning of the year, lately, there have been some clunkers, that haven't been as expected. And I know tomorrow we got the Eagles and the Packers. Hopefully we'll end up getting a good game there. But if we end up having a 22-3 score, you best believe it would probably be Philadelphia up. And that's a big sack lunch there on Justin Herbert from TJ Watt, 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Chargers are about to punt the football, and, let's get the Steelers in the end zone at least once. I mean, hell, if Aaron Rodgers can't do it, with Freiermuth or DK Metcalf, at least get like Jalen Warren in the end zone. Wow, he's a half sack away from his brother, JJ. Wild. Yeah, and the Packers have been very inconsistent, up and down, peaks and valleys, and again, if they play up to the competition and they're obviously feeding off the Lambeau crowd, they might be able to keep it close, especially if they strike first with Jordan Love. But, if it ends up being a regular Eagle type of matchup where Jalen Hurts does the Jalen Hurts thing, special teams is elite, defense is elite, could be a long day for Green Bay tomorrow, even at home. And Steelers almost blocked the punt. Oh, fair catch. And he fumbled it. And the Chargers recover. Wow. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And again, when it rains, it pours. And the Steelers can't even catch a fucking punt. Disgraceful. It makes you wonder, how the hell did this team beat the Colts? But again, just one bad game by the Colts. Pittsburgh was the team, playing them at the right time. And wow. Muffed. We have a muff. We have a muff alert. Yeah, but if the Packers end up getting destroyed, it won't hurt my feelings. Yeah, I feel they're too inconsistent. I feel like Eagles are better, Bucks are better, Lions are better, even though they beat them early on. I think Rams are better, Seahawks are better. Like maybe the Packers are better than like the Niners and like the Bears, based off record in teams that are kind of borderline. But I don't know. I don't really think that Green Bay might be like the last playoff team in, that type of team, where they might be able to get in and might be able to win. But they seem like the weakest good team in the NFC, if that makes sense. Second down and 14. And Vidal up the middle loses a yard. That's not good for many. Third down and 15 at the Pittsburgh 26. Give me 6 yards. Football, Jesus. Football. Frozen hands. Snow weather. 6 yards. Football, Jesus. Oh, come on, eh? Third down and 15. She wants all the fantasy points. All right, we got about 5 minutes to go. And Vidal with a 3-yard run. Fourth down and 12 at the Pittsburgh 23. Might as well have the kicker come out there. Dicka the kicker to kick another field goal. And we finally get a team that's in the mid-20s. But again, I am a little shocked that Pittsburgh only put up 3. I mean, even the Raiders put up 7. And obviously the Broncos are a Super Bowl contender, even though their defense is number 1 and the offense at times for Bo Nix sputters. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But I guess it's better than Thursday night's game. But, thankfully Herbert and Kamani and the rest, were able to make some plays like Ladd McConkey. But, you had some sack lunches, on Pittsburgh's defense, but really the only way that Pittsburgh was going to compete in this game is if they ended up scoring a touchdown on defense. And that didn't happen. Field goal is up by Dicka the kicker, and it is good. 25-3 Chargers. What's it like living in Toronto? You've lived there your whole life, I assume? Or are you, from another area up there and then are living there now? Brandon in the building. What's good, brother? I don't watch it as much. Obviously once they raised the price for $30 a month for the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN package, and obviously they got a little bit too greedy. I want to watch, Raw and SmackDown and NXT and the PLEs that are once a month. But until they get to a point where they lower the price to like $10 a month, like when they had WWE Network or Peacock, then I'll start watching again. But at this point, I want to watch, but again, I'm not necessarily like fully boycotting WWE or AEW. Like I do love wrestling still, but again, it kind of TKO, with that branding with WWE and them kind of selling out to ESPN. They've lost a lot of fans, whether they want to admit it or not. And they haven't fully lost me yet, but they're getting close, and again, it's like, I do enjoy it when I have the time to watch, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch, and I'm definitely not paying $30 a month, but again, if they lower the price to like 10, I'll start doing WWE PLEs once a month on the channel. But if they keep it the way that it is, we may not do another WWE PLE on the channel for a while. So see, you're not even paying for it. You're borrowing accounts. I mean, I can still watch. I'll still watch the PLEs, but I'll just watch it, there's other streaming links, but again, if you are watching on a streaming link and it's like 30 seconds behind, I can't do a live stream off that, so I have to be live. So it's like I can still keep up with what's going on, but, unfortunately, 30 seconds behind won't cut it for a live stream for WWE. So moved from Germany. Really? Wow. Wow, that's awesome. And how long have you been bartending down there? Germany to Toronto. I love it. I've never been to Canada or Toronto, but it looks beautiful. (25-3) Chargers. And again, when you watch this Pittsburgh team, it makes you wonder how the hell did they beat the Colts recently? But again, 6 turnovers by Indianapolis will do it. But that's what I'm saying. Like the Steelers are kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, like the Packers. Like one week they look good, the other week they look like dog shit. Like, they're what's the identity of the team? And I think that Green Bay is better than Pittsburgh. And again, Pittsburgh is, in a few weeks, going to be probably trailing the Ravens in the division. And, I think the Chargers have a much better chance of making the playoffs than the Steelers do. If Steelers aren't careful, they're going to get into the Jags, kind of Texans territory where you're kind of on the outside looking in. Six-yard pass from Rodgers to Austin. 2nd down and 4 at the Pittsburgh 41. And a little screen pass. And that's one of the more exciting plays that Pittsburgh has had all night. 15-yard pass. Pat Fryer, move the chains. 1st down and 10 at the Charger 44. Can we get at least like one touchdown by Pittsburgh? So they don't look like, they're like the worst team in the NFL. And Rodgers gets plummeted as he throws it into the turf. I mean, the way that the Steelers are playing today, they look like the Jets or like the Browns or the Raiders or the Giants or the Saints or the Cardinals. That's what they look like. 7 years, huh? No, I've never done a Canadian football, but again, if we had viewership high enough to watch like the championship, game in the Canadian Football League, that would be like the one to do. Just like, when they have like these other, leagues after the NFL season ends, I'll watch here and there, and usually there'll be a little bit of hype for the first couple weeks, but then you just don't get enough offense and touchdowns. And then usually I stop watching, for a few weeks. And then when it gets to the championship, I'll watch that typically. But Pass incomplete from Aaron Rodgers. Short right to Austin. 3rd down and 10 at the Charger 44. 13-50. Let's get there. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. So we'll be doing a little bit of NFL this week, a little bit of college football, and we'll probably sprinkle in another Blazers stream. Again, we had good results against the Thunder. We beat the only undefeated team at the time. Again, they ended up losing to the Heat yesterday. We got to find a way to be better in the 4th quarter, but at least Denny Advia is an all-star this year. And, again, when we do Blazers and Kraken, for the NBA and the NHL, it'll be like filler streams. But again, I have been watching pretty much every game for both. And those will be what we end up doing when we're not doing NFL Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, or college football on Friday and Saturday. 2-yard pass from Rodgers to Gainwell. And that's kind of sad because that's pretty much all you're really getting from Rodgers is just check downs and screen passes. You don't really have the ability to go any deeper than 5 to 10 yards. And that's obviously a credit to the Charger defense that's been smothering today. But we've done basketball, baseball, football, hockey, UFC, boxing. I mean, we've done pretty much everything. I don't really do soccer unless it would be like, something like World Cup. If it was like World Cup, I would consider it maybe, but. And Jonnu Smith, short pass there, 4 yards from Aaron Rodgers. 3rd down and 4 at the Charger 27. But I do feel like Pittsburgh is the Jekyll and Hyde, like Green Bay. I feel Green Bay is a better team than Pittsburgh. But again, one week you might be great. The next week, not so much. There we go. Rodgers, Wilson, touchdown, Steelers. Wow. There we go. Finally, Pittsburgh. Christ. Aaron Rodgers actually doing something positive. Roman Wilson with great yak yards after the catch. Shitty defense by the DBs on the Chargers. Maybe they felt a little pity, on Pittsburgh here. And let's see if we can get the Chargers to hit another touchdown before the game is over. Extra point is up by Boswell and good. 25-10 Chargers. Jerry in the building. What's good? Lenny Wilkins. No way. Onside kicks, 35 attempts, 3 successful, 9%, not ideal. Bucks almost got one today, but Diggs was the one that ended up catching it. And we'll see if Boswell can get that bounce or not. Can you get a kneel down there? All right, we got less than 3 minutes to go. Chargers 25, Steelers 10. And the 25 by the Chargers was kind of what I was expecting. 24 to like 30 points. Somewhere in that general range, high to mid 20s. But I definitely expected the Steelers to at least get to 17 at the bare minimum, but obviously the offense has not looked good. O-line was terrible today. Now the defense on third down for both teams was great, but a lot of sack lunches on Rodgers and on Herbert. But, again, quite a bit of hope being exposed on that O-line for Pittsburgh, and obviously not having another running back, to help Jaylen Warren. And then Keenan Allen going to keep a football. Herbert to Keenan Allen. Great career for Keenan. 2nd down and 3 at the Pittsburgh 42. Most receptions in team history over Antonio Gates. 2 studs, 956 and 955. Awesome. Congratulations, Keenan Allen. Even Antonio Gates is proud of him. And great to see him come back to the Chargers. Walltown in the building. What's good? I think it's a little premature. You beat the Panthers, but obviously considering how the season has gone, it hasn't been good, for the Saints or the Falcons. Obviously Panthers have had a pretty good year, up to this point, being in second at the moment, but I think you need someone a little bit better than what you have. He played pretty good today, but when you have Drew Brees, and then you have to go away from that, that's kind of the standard that you want, a player like that, but the team really hasn't recovered since Brees and Sean Payton left, and we'll see how it goes moving forward for you guys. But on that, being said, good victory against a team that probably should have beat you, but again, Carolina scored first with Rico Dowdle, and then you guys ended up scoring the rest of the way. But again, at this point, do you really want wins? You might want to just, they're not necessarily going to, openly tank and whatnot, but, obviously looking for a quarterback, and maybe Fernando Mendoza from Indiana will be, someone that you guys would look at and whatnot. We'll see. But there's quite a bit of holes that the Saints need to fill. O-line, skill position, defense, and a lot of the players that they have, trusted over the years are getting older. Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, Alvin Kamara, and these guys aren't getting any younger either. 3rd down and 5 after a loss of 2 by Vidal on the Pittsburgh 44. Yeah, that was many, many years ago. I've been doing the channel now. I've been streaming for 13 years. This is my 9th year on YouTube, and reaction videos like that haven't been done since maybe like year 3. So that it's been like 6 years, so. And Vidal runs towards that left end, 6-yard run, 1st down. Charges. Rest in peace, Lenny Wilkins. And a kneel down there by the Chargers. And that is going to be the game. Final score, Chargers 25, Steelers 10. Not exactly what I think we were expecting, for this game. I was thinking it could be a little bit closer and whatnot, but again, great win for the Chargers, a pivotal win, for them to go to 7-3 to catch up to the Denver Broncos and to have a little bit of a lead on the Chiefs, and the Steelers dropped to 5-4. And it feels like in a week or two, the Ravens are going to surpass them and they're not going to look back. And this might be the beginning of the end of the Pittsburgh Steelers making the playoffs. It's going to be very crucial, how they play the rest of the way if they get in with a wild card, unless, Lamar gets hurt again. That might be the only way Pittsburgh wins the division, if Lamar gets hurt again. So we'll see how it goes. But we will be live for the Eagles and the Packers. Really looking forward to Jordan Love, going against Jalen Hurts. And that should be a much more entertaining game, we assume, than this one. And obviously what we saw with the Broncos Raiders on Thursday night. But I will be looking forward to seeing you guys and girls then. Love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very much. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do on your way out. And final score, Chargers 25, Steelers 10. Thank you for spending your afternoon/evening with me, and look forward to hanging out with you guys tomorrow for the Eagles and the Packers for Monday Night Football. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to Sarah, Minnie, with your support, and TJ and the rest for helping out with the subs as well. Have a great rest of your guys' Sunday night, and I love you guys, and I appreciate you, and I'm out. Okay.